Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Spurs Up Show, the best Gamecocks podcast on the internet. Today is Monday, October the 11th, 2021. Today's show, I give my full thoughts on South Carolina's 45-20 loss as the Gamecocks fall to the Tennessee Volunteers Saturday in Knoxville. Guys, I'll give my full thoughts. We'll also talk biggest takeaway from this Saturday. Also, we'll hand out some game balls, talk slap pick of the weekend, and I'll hand out the weekly Cock of the Walk award as, again, South Carolina falls to 0-3 in SEC play. Also, guys, we got news and notes, your listener questions, voicemails, as well as a fantastic throwback interview and conversation with former Gamecocks second baseman and current baseball assistant Scott Wingo. Guys, an absolute legend, a great conversation, and a great show here on a Monday, and it's all brought to you by our friends over at Upstate Movers Group. Guys, Upstate Movers Group, superior moving service. They bring care and attention the companies can't offer because they're just too busy maintaining trucks and profiting off of them instead of focusing on service. Guys, service is what separates Upstate Movers Group from the competition. They're not a trucking company. They're a moving services company, and they're also employee-owned co-op. The movers are paid twice the industry average, and everyone on the crew is invested in your success. They have dedicated professional crew members, and they also offer black glove service. They offer end-to-end packing services, custom crating and packaging for special items, and cleaning services as well. They're founded by Greenville natives and University of South Carolina alumni, guys, so a Gamecock-owned small business. They also offer 20 years of project management moving experience, and they can offer logistics and solutions that traditional moving companies simply do not have the skills for. Guys, whether in the upstate or across the state of South Carolina, if you have any moving needs in 2021, be sure to check out our friends over at Upstate Movers Group. You can find them on social media at Upstate Movers Group. Of course, if you have any other questions, go to their website, upstatemoversgroup.com. That's upstatemoversgroup.com. Be sure to check them out and tell them Chris from the Spurs Up Show sent you. Let's get it. Therapy Monday. We find ourselves here yet again. Guys, you know what always continues to surprise me is that there isn't some big therapist in Columbia, South Carolina, throughout the state that sponsors the Gamecocks and the University of South Carolina, and specifically the football program, because I feel like that would be a very, very fruitful endeavor, because it's days like Saturday and Sunday and today, and really the entirety of this week, and hey, the entirety of most seasons, that I feel we could all use a therapist to listen to our problems and listen to what's going on and what's going through our minds and the pain and discomfort we're suffering from due to our favorite team. But one thing always remains, one thing will always be constant, no matter what, we'll still always be here, rocking the garnet and black, going through the ups and the many, many downs with our team. Guys, happy Monday. Therapy Monday, of course. You all know the drill. Appreciate you all tuning in, guys. I hope this show finds you, and I hope you had a great weekend as well, by the way, and I hope it finds you well no matter where you are, what you're doing, whether you're on the commute, you're in the office, you're on the job, you got the day off. Maybe you're in class, guys. I know you're all back on campus, back in class, whatever it may be. Again, guys, thank you so much for continuing to tune in, showing love, showing support, rocking and rolling with the content, everything that we do. Again, guys, we got a packed Monday show, a lot to get into. We're going to talk about it. We're going to break it down. We're going to talk about what went right and mostly what went wrong on Rocky Top over the weekend. And hey, I've got some things to own up to. I've got some crow to eat, so we're going to do that here on a Monday show. Really, really quickly, guys. Just a couple of quick reminders I want to run by you because we got a very, very busy week. First things first, we've got a couple of giveaways going on social media that I want to make you aware of, specifically on Instagram. We're giving away an art piece from my friend Summer Doodles. We've posted that. Again, that's going to be a classic giveaway, like the post, tag 3 friends. We'll do the giveaway later this week, so you want to check in on that. Also, we're giving away 2 tickets to Saturday's game against the Vanderbilt Commodores. Yes, guys, it's Vandy week. It's homecoming week. It's fair week, by the way. So again, if you need 2 tickets for the 4:00 kickoff on Saturday, be sure you stay tuned to that. Go check out the giveaway on Instagram. That one's just like all the other ones we've done. Like the post, tag 3 friends. Appreciate our friends over at Dason and Shalabi Law Firm for helping us out there. We will announce the winner on Friday, we will announce the winner of those 2 tickets. Also, guys, of course, this week we're at Tin Roof Wednesday night, 5 to 7 in the Vista. Be sure to check us out. Going to be a really, really good time. And a quick reminder also, guys, Saturday, the TSUS tailgate back at Seawells for the 4:00 kickoff, the Vanderbilt game. Again, it is fair weekend, but we are in the Seawells lot. So our tailgate will be uninterrupted. So again, if you normally tailgate in the fairgrounds or you're elsewhere and the fair might throw off your plans, come hang out with us at Seawell. It's going to be a really, really good time. Spots 93 to 96, and we'll be out there around 11 a.m. or so, very similar to how the Troy game went down. But again, the TSUS tailgate in Seawells, spots 93 to 96. Very excited to get back out there. So again, guys, let's go ahead and dive into it because there's a lot to talk about, a lot to dive into, and I really don't even know where to start today. It's funny watching the game, by the way, those that came out to the watch party at the Carolina Ale House location in Somerville, South Carolina, thank you all so much. Those watch parties continue to be a massive success. And again, I cannot thank you all enough because without you guys showing up and supporting and rocking with those, obviously they wouldn't be successful and Carolina Ale House probably wouldn't want to do them anymore. So again, thank you all for showing up, showing love, and, had a really, really good time at the Carolina Ale House in Somerville, South Carolina. A really great venue, by the way. If you've never been there, check that out. We had a really good setup on the back patio there, watching the game on the big screen, the projector, if you will. We had the game sound on. Was a really, really good time. But, it's funny. The guys that I was sitting with watching the game, I told them, I said, it's hard to get angry and upset when you fall down 28-0 in the first quarter. And as we all know, that's exactly what happened in this football game. When you get pummeled and punched like that, right? It's almost like I almost felt numb. Like before you could even blink, it was 14-0 Tennessee, then 21, then 28. And you're like, man, this game is over. Entering the second quarter, all of the suspense, all of the drama, all of the edge of your seat type feelings, it was all gone. It was all gone. And so where do you start when talking about this football game? We can start with positives because, of course, there's a plethora of negatives to get through, right? There's a plethora of negatives. Hey, just look at social media if you want to divulge into some of that. I will say this, kudos to this football team for continuing to fight, to not give up, to not lay down, because you could have easily done so, right? When it was 38-7 at halftime. I thought there were many of us, I was included, that thought Tennessee was going to run away with this thing and they might win this thing 56-14 or something like that. But credit to your guys, credit to our guys, I should say, continue to fight, continue to battle, fight, scratch, and claw, and, at least make Tennessee, I guess, a little uncomfortable after halftime. And I know many people say, if you take away that first quarter, South going to outscore Tennessee, but that's not how football and sports works, guys. The second half, I thought the running game looked a little bit better. Kevin Harris, I think definitely, I'll say this about Kevin Harris, guys, in the run game, that I think Kevin Harris, for the most part, should be run strictly out of the I formation. I think Kevin Harris in the I formation looks much, much more like himself when he's in that traditional power set versus running out of a shotgun or a pistol. It reminded me a lot. There were a couple of runs where I'm like, there's the Kevin Harris we missed. There's the Kevin Harris that led the SEC in rushing a season ago. So I'd like to see South going to return to that. I thought Luke Doty, guys, to be honest with you, played fine. When he had time, I thought he looked pretty good. I thought we finally saw him break off for some runs. Jaheim Bell got involved here and there. Defensively, Jalen Foster, shout out to that kid, what he continues to do. But, of course, you guys are like, Chris, why are you dancing around the issues? Why are you dancing around? It was a 25-point loss. Okay. I've started off with the positive. Let's dive into what really happened, right? You fall down 28-0. How did you get there? How did you get there? I mean, it felt like a freaking ambush. One of my keys to the game was start fast. Start fast, he says. The opposite of start fast is what happened on Saturday. And again, I'll start with this, guys. I'm going to eat crow right now because you know what? I misled you this past week, I should say. I misled you, and that's on me. That's on me. You know, I pride myself on being realistic and setting realistic expectations and not getting out over my skis. And, I feel that a lot of problems, not just in sports, but in life, arise from unrealistic expectations being set. And I had been very realistic all season long about the realities of this football team, your deficiencies, your shortcomings, and the things and the areas that you have to fix, right? Hey, I was one of the only, if not the only one, that picked the loss to Kentucky. I was one of the only ones that picked as wide a margin in the game against Georgia. I was the only one, I feel, that picked such a close game against East Carolina. I've been very realistic about the state of this program and the state of this football team to this point. But I want to apologize to you all, and I want to eat my crow. I'm here to eat my crow because obviously, as you all know, I guaranteed a victory. I guaranteed a victory as early as Wednesday. And then I doubled down on that on Thursday. And I quadrupled down on that on Friday when I locked in my official score prediction. Now, I'll say this because I know a lot of people will say that the Gamecocks offense, because the entire conversation right now is about the South kind of offense and what they're not doing. And I totally understand that, guys. But really what surprised me a lot was the Gamecocks struggles defensively. I really was surprised at just how easy it was for Tennessee to move the football up and down the field. And again, guys, I've talked to you all about this defensive line. I thought Clayton White, by the way, was like kidnapped. I'm like, what is going on? And, we find out in pregame that Cam Smith's not playing due to, I think, his head injury, probably from the Troy game. That certainly didn't help you in the secondary. But Tennessee with 24 first downs, 247 yards on the ground, guys, 5 yards per carry. And I talked about this going in the Kentucky game, and I said, hey, what a dominant defensive line would do. And I hate to harp so much on the D-line because, hey, they're really what's carrying your defense in a lot of ways, and they're setting up a lot of those big plays we're seeing for the secondary right now. But this defensive line, it has a ways to go. For it to be arguably your best position unit on your football team, it's got a ways to go. 5 yards per carry, you surrendered. And guys, if you can't hold an opponent to less than that, if you're giving up 200 plus yards per game on the ground, you have no chance in a football game. If a football team can run like that on you, you simply have no chance. You have no chance. You also give up 225 yards through the air. Hendon Hooker, hey, tip my cap. He played his tail off, 9.8 yards per reception, per attempt. Per completion, 13.2 yards per completion, and he threw 3 touchdowns. They took care of the football. I mean, give credit to Tennessee. I will say that. I did not think Tennessee could play as well as they played against Missouri about a week and a half ago or so. And sure enough, they showed up, they showed out, and they just shoved it down your throat to start the football game. And just completely dominated. That was like 2012 Georgia, but shoe was on the other foot. We were the ones taking it versus the ones giving it. Pause. But either way, so you fall down 28-0 though. And again, I'm starting with the defense because I know all the conversation is about the offense, and I promise you, I'm going to get there. But defensively, I was just really surprised how easy it was for Tennessee to go up and down the field. I really thought, you know what? Even if your offense struggles early, you're going to be able to hang your hat on this defensive unit. And I'll tell you guys this, the secondary has played, above and beyond my expectations through the first 5 weeks of the season. I'll be totally honest, what we saw against Tennessee, that's kind of what I expected to see all season. I gave them a D- grade in the preseason, guys, for a reason. And you saw some guys, I think, that first time playing at this level, first season playing at this level, you saw a couple of those guys picked on a little bit. You saw a couple of them picked on, right? Maybe guys that just aren't ready for this level to win a game like that on the road in the SEC, to go up against the Velus Jones Jr.'s and the Jalen Hyatts of the world, the Hendon Hookers of the world, whatever it might be. You know, again, guys, we all want to talk about coaching. And hey, coaches get paid millions of dollars to put guys in position to make plays, but it also comes down to Jimmys and Joes and players making plays and executing. Players win games, coaches lose them. So defensively, you still have holes, you still have issues. I still feel good going into a game like Vandy, which we'll talk much more later in the week. You know, the defense has improved. I still like Clayton White. The loss of Cam Smith killed you against UT, and you got to hope you get him back. But it's still a work in progress on that side of the football, even as improved as they are this season. Now, let's get to what you all want to discuss, and that is the offensive side. And as a whole, by the way, you know, guys, what's crazy to me, now we're really going to get in the nitty-gritty. What's crazy to me about the culture of the sport of football as a whole, not just South Carolina, but we're seeing this happening right now. But the culture of the sport of football is this. Anytime a football team loses a game, right? Anytime a team loses a game, in the sport of baseball, when you get beat, and I understand they're different sports. I understand in baseball you play so many more games. I get it. But in the sport of baseball, you get beat. Hey, some nights you have a bad night or they just outplay you and you say, hey, tip your cap. They got us tonight. It is what it is. That's not the case in football. When you lose in football, people need to blame something. For fans, it's not enough to just say, you know what, we went up there. It was a nightmare start. It was a nightmare scenario. We didn't play well. We'll get them next time. Fans cannot live with that. Even in year one of a new head football coach, they can't live with that. Somebody's got to be benched. Somebody's got to be fired. Some ref has got to be, expelled from the league. Something has to happen. Heads have to roll every time you lose. And I just don't understand it, guys. Again, this is very similar to after the Kentucky game, which, boy, that reaction looks more and more foolish week after week after week as the Cats sit 6-0, ranked in the top 15 in the entire country. That reaction sure does look foolish. And I'm not saying that the way the game started, guys, was a positive. I'm not. Hey, South kind of came out, got their tails whipped, 28-0. No other way to put it. But this thought process, guys, I'm not going to be the guy this season. If you're tuning into my show because you're like, you know what? He was the Fire Muschamp guy, so he has to be the Fire Blank guy this season. That's not going to be me, guys. That's not going to be me. Having perspective is very important. Having perspective is very key. And I see many people saying, oh, man, Shane Beamer's in over his head. Marcus Satterfield's in over his head. This guy, that guy. We got to make a change. Beamer should only – we've literally got fans right now. And I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about them, by the way, because I've made a decision that I'm going to create the content I want to create, and I'm going to put out the messaging I want to put out. And those toxic people that want to do that, hey, you're entitled to your opinion, but I'm not going to spend the majority of my show responding to what Billy Bob Joe says, who has 27 followers on Twitter. Who really gives a damn, to be honest with you? But anyone out there who's already putting a timeline on Shane Beamer, well, I tell you what, he looks like he's in over his head, and if he ain't doing this by year 3, you got to get him out of there. Dude, you must have not wanted Shane Beamer here in the first place, because I'll tell you this, guys. Yes, there were coaching blunders on Saturday. I'm about to dive into that more in a second. Many coaching blunders. There have been coaching blunders this season. But I'll tell you this, guys, and I don't know how this is going to sound to you all, but this is just the way that I processed it. You didn't hire Shane Beamer as your head football coach because you were saying to yourself, you know what, in year 1, he's going to be a great head football coach. He's going to be a great head football coach because, guys, he had never been a head football coach. If that was your goal, if the goal was simply to have a 1-year turnaround, then you hired the wrong guy. South Carolina's hope and expectation and goal was when hiring Shane Beamer, hey, we're hiring a guy. There's a very high risk involved. There's a high risk because he's never been a head football coach. And what we are banking on is through experience and, going through it at South Carolina, he can eventually learn on the job and evolve into being a great head football coach. But I'm not surprised, to be honest with you, to see many of these blunders and these mistakes. Of course, I'm talking offensively. And the moment this game turned, of course, guys, you all know 14-0. You have what I thought in the time, and I almost tweeted it. Maybe me just even thinking about it was a jinx. But you have what I thought in the moment I thought was your best drive of the season. You look like you were actually running the football. There seemed to be some tempo. There seemed to be some sort of oh my goodness, identity. I thought to myself, okay, we're finding something here. And for whatever reason, you get down to the 1-yard line and you decide to go away from everything you had been doing, everything you had been building up on that drive, and you get cute. 1st and goal from the 1. For some reason, you put Dak Joyner at quarterback. Guys, this is not meant as a slight on the kid. Can we stop trying to make Dak Joyner a thing? Can we all just come to grips with and accept that Dak Joyner's not an offensive playmaker at the SEC level? Can we stop doing it? Whether it be at receiver, whether it be at Wildcat. Hey, I feel for the kid because he was ruined in development by Will Muschamp and his staff, but let's stop trying to make it a thing. And I'm not even really speaking to you guys. I'm speaking to Shane Beamer. I'm speaking to Marcus Satterfield. I'm speaking to everybody involved in that offensive staff. I appreciate the kid for sticking it out. I appreciate him wanting to be a Gamecock, but stop. This ain't Pee-wee. It's about production. And the dude hadn't got it done in 5 years. What's going to change now? But anyways, that's sort of beside the point. But you think it's a good idea to completely go away from what you were doing, put Dak Joyner in a basically a trick play. So that gets snuffed out, right? Whatever. So you think to yourself, okay, we're going to go back under center, hand it to Kevin Harris, big body guy. We got to punch this in. 2nd and goal. You call what, and again, guys, I'm a Shane Beamer guy, and I'm not even on the fire Marcus Satterfield train yet. I'm not leading this show off, right? Saying, fire Marcus Satterfield, fire Marcus Satterfield. I'm not doing that. But that play call on 2nd and goal, the toss sweep trick play to Jordan Birch, a defensive end, who then threw the football or tried to throw it to Nick Muse in the back of the end zone. And of course, accordingly, it was intercepted. And from then on, the route was on. The game was over at that point. I don't know that I've ever seen a more baffling play call in a football game in my entire life. And I mean that in all seriousness. I tweeted that video out. Here it is, folks. The worst play call in the history of college football. I actually mean that. I don't know that I've ever seen a worse play call when you take into account situation, personnel, everything. And hey, my good buddy Brad Crawford and others tried, and I know Shane Beamer as well himself, tried to justify and say, if Jordan Birch makes the throw here and, the play would have worked, it was bad execution. Bro, you're asking a defensive end to throw a dime in the back corner of the end zone. What are we talking about? Or am I taking Looney Tune pills right now? What are you talking about? Even if it works, guys, it's a ridiculous call. It's a ridiculous call. We're not playing Madden. This is real life. That's like something you call an NCAA when you're messing around with your buddies. That's not what you call when you're down 14-0 and you desperately need to get 6. So again, I'm a huge fan of Beamer. I'm still a Beamer guy. Beamer ball to the death of us, I guess. I'm not even on the fire Marcus Satterfield train yet. But how on God's green earth, when you line up for that play, how does someone on that coaching staff, on those headsets, stop and say, you know what? Maybe this isn't a good idea. And of course, Shane Beamer broke it down. Hey, we practiced the play. We felt good about the play and said that we had planned the first time we got down on the goal line to run the play. That is all fine and dandy, but you got to go with the flow of the game. You can't just call it to call it. And again, maybe if there's a perfect throw made, maybe it's a touchdown. Maybe it's a touchdown. But you're asking Jordan Burch, like the risk reward in that scenario to me, that doesn't add up. None of that adds up. I feel like these football dudes, man, these coordinators, these coaches, again, that's another one of the things, guys. When you talk about the culture of football, these football guys, man, they're so smart, they're stupid. I mean, I'm just a humble podcaster, but for the love of God, what in the world was that? Again, I love Shane Beamer, but he's not above criticism here. Marcus Satterfield's certainly not above criticism. That was a bad play call, and there's just no other way to put it. I don't want to hear an explanation. It was a bad play call. Even if it works, you say, why on God? Why the hell would you do that? Why not just run the football in? Because here's the other thing, guys, about that play call that bothered me. And this is something I think nobody's talking about. Here's what bothered me about that one specific play call. And really both play calls, the first and second and goal play calls. What that told me was you don't believe you're good enough to line up and just win this game straight up. You need trickery at the goal line to get a yard. And like I said against Kentucky, guys, if you cannot get 3 feet, you don't deserve to win. And so that screamed to me, hey, we don't even believe we're good enough to get a yard. We don't believe we are. We don't believe we're good enough to just line up and pound the rock. That's what irks me. That's what irked me then. That's what irked me on Sunday. And that's what irks me today. I don't give a damn if it was executed, it would have been a touchdown. You don't even believe you can get a yard running the football. You have the SEC's leading rusher from a season ago. He's actually ran the ball fairly decently on the drive. I mean, what do you even have Kevin Harris for if you're not going to run him in that situation? It was a horrific play call. One of the worst you'll ever see. And Shane Beamer and Marcus Satterfield deserve all of the criticism for it. They do. I'm not saying they don't. They do. It was a bad play call. It was a bad play call. And that was the point again. That ball game was over. Body language on the sideline changed. Momentum completely shifted. I mean, the momentum was already in Tennessee's favor. But hey, you score there. It's 14-7. Maybe it doesn't get out of hand. You never know. God, even if you kick a field goal, at least you're hanging on for dear life. But the game was over at that point. And the point I just made about the run game, and you don't even believe you can get a yard, that really leads me to the point I want to make about the offense. Because, again, the interesting thing about offensive coordinators, and like I said, guys, the interesting thing about fans is when you lose a football game, heads must roll. You can't just lose a football game and say, hey, we'll just get them next week. Nope. For fans, somebody has to be fired. Somebody has to be blamed. Somebody has to be benched. They have to be fired. I mean, 6 games in, fire them all. Get rid of the whole staff. They're all terrible. What happened to all them good vibes y'all had on the Welcome Home tour? What happened? Where'd y'all go? I mean, you going to change up the energy already? We're just 6 games in? What happened? But when I look at this offense, it's very popular to blame Marcus Satterfield. And again, I am not saying, guys, he's not above criticism because he hadn't been good enough. That's it. He ain't been good enough. But when I look back at the stats and I think back to yesterday's football game, I spent 3+ months during the preseason telling you guys really one thing about this offense. One thing. And that one thing I spent telling you guys about was this. That one thing I kept repeating over and over again about this offense in regards to their expectations and what they had to do to be successful was this. If South Carolina cannot run the football effectively, it will have no chance. This is an offense that has to be built around its strength, which is running the football. And you look at yesterday, 153 yards on the ground, 3.7 yards per carry, guys. 3.7 yards per carry. And you could see it so early in the football game that we don't believe we can run it. We don't. We don't believe we can run it when you're coming out pass. And I know what I said about, hey, fail fast, right? If you got to throw it, throw it. I get that. But realistically, as much as I want that to work, this team will continue to struggle until it can run the football. Bottom line, this team was never going to be built to throw the ball down the field and score 40 or 50 points. It never was, guys. And that's what makes me kind of scratch my head. Those who expected us to be an offensive juggernaut if we could not run the football. I mean, you weren't a very good offense last year. And then you come into this season and you lost your best playmaker from a season ago. Did people think this offense was going to go out and score 40 a game? Because if you did, you set improper expectations. Now, back to the running the football thing. Is it a schematics issue? Because I'll tell you this. Again, I watch on Saturday, guys, and is the play calling perfect? Most certainly it is not. I mean, look at the goal line play. Need I say more? Is the play calling perfect? No, it is not. But we just continue to shoot ourselves in the foot. Play after play after play. Series after series. Drive after drive. Quarter after quarter. Game after game. We just make stupid mistakes that stupid, bad football teams with inexperienced head coaches make. That's just who we are right now. That's who we are. All we got's all we need, but all we got's also all we have. You know, I said it on social media, and some of you got upset, and I really don't give a damn. That it's hard to win these type of games when you're playing with a bunch of D2 and FCS transfers. And obviously, I'm not saying the entire football team, but the talent of the football team has to get better. Because you know what makes an offensive coordinator look really good? You know what makes a coach look really good? Guys who go out and make plays. You can't be dropping passes. Hey, you got to convert those. You have to. There were plenty of moments on Saturday where it's like you start to get something going, then you make a stupid penalty. Or you start to get something, then you drop a pass. Then you miss an assignment on the offensive line, blows up the play, you're behind the sticks. It's like South Carolina just cannot get out of its own way. They can't get out of their own way. Six games in, guys, Marcus Satterfield's going nowhere. I'm going to tell you that right now. Marcus Satterfield's going nowhere. And I'll tell you this, though. I'm behind Shane Beamer 110%. He wants to go out there and fire Marcus Satterfield today, fine. So be it. But I would say this, guys. This is how I look at the offensive coordinator situation. And really the Shane Beamer situation and this situation with Carolina football, because we sit here on a Monday. Many of you are still furious. You're upset, and I get it. And, hey, I love the passion. You shouldn't be happy getting your tails beat, by the way, because, you know, I talked about in the beginning the positives of, hey, you made a great comeback and you fought and you didn't quit. But we're not about moral victories here. Like, you know, how much of that was you fought and how much of that was Tennessee just stopped trying? They're up 31 points. You still lost by 25. So what did you really do? You know, what did you really do? I'm not going to give you some participation trophy award or some medal because you love each other and you didn't quit on one another. No shit, bro. You're getting a scholarship. You shouldn't quit on each other. I mean, playing hard should be an afterthought. That's what you do. There's only one speed you play the game. I don't give a damn what school you're at, who your head coach is, who your teammates are. It just goes to show how badly things were left off when the expectations are truly that low. Hey, man, let's just play hard, not give up. I mean, that's the level the program's gotten to. Let's just play hard, not give up. You got your asses whooped. That's all there is to it. And, hey, again, I'm eating crow. I misled you last week. I'm sorry. I apologize. I misled you because I looked at this game and I thought, you know what? Maybe you showed a little bit of promise against Troy. Luke Doty's getting healthier. You know, I think the offense will do just enough. I really leaned on the defense. I thought, you know what? The defense are going to force turnovers. They're going to put South Carolina in a position to win. And I probably gave my prediction with my heart too much. I did not listen to my head enough, and I can tell you it won't happen again. But I thought, you know, I I'm so tired of being realistic. I want to believe that we're going to do something we probably aren't supposed to do. We obviously weren't expected to because we were a 10.5 point underdog. I was like, I want to believe we're going to do it. I do. I really, really do. I want to believe at some point it's going to click. And I want to believe at some point this roster is going to just completely overachieve because, guys, as much as I thought Tennessee was a dumpster fire, I don't know if it's in the transfer portal. I don't know if it's just their recruiting's been better. But, man, top to bottom, they look worlds better than you. And I'm not just talking about scheme and coaching. I'm talking about pure athlete-to-athlete matchup. That's what I'm talking about. You know, that's the other thing that just always baffles me is these fans that just can't believe that we're not very good. They can't believe it. They can't fathom it. Proof's in the pudding, bruh. It's right there on the field. And it falls again on everybody. It ain't just players. Coaching has got to be worlds better. Worlds better. I don't know what has to change in regards to play calling. Marcus Satterfield, like I said, guys, is not getting fired. And firing an offensive coordinator after 1 year, in just my humble opinion, again, I'm just a humble podcaster here, but in my humble opinion, firing an OC after one season, that's not the way to operate your program, guys. Who are you going to go get? Who's going to want to come to South Carolina under a 1 year success or failure type of expectation? Because guess what, guys? These people are human beings as well. Why would I want to move my family and move my life and take an opportunity where, hey, I know that if I don't get it done in a year, I'm gone. I'm gone. The fan base will turn on me. I will get fired. Now I'm stuck looking for a new job. So I think what you do, unless things just completely hit the fan, the rest of the way out, which, by the way, guys, we're at the midway point. Wednesday's show, I'll give a full breakdown and report card of my thoughts on the first half of the season. And don't you worry, I'm a harsh grader. But unless things hit the fan, but assuming they don't, you bring Marcus Satterfield back next year. And you see what he does in that year. And if he doesn't get it done by end of next year, if the offense continues to have these same problems, then I have no issue with you cutting ties. None. Hey, we gave you 2 full seasons. We saw no progress. We got to go our separate ways. But clamoring for a coach to be fired halfway through the 2021 season is just nutso. Throw you in the insane asylum. Now, do adjustments have to be made? Does something have to change? But guys, as a whole, you play badly. Because what's crazy is this. When you look at the statistics in this football game, for a 25-point loss, what's mind-blowing to me is there's not as much of a gap as I would expect there to be. Tennessee gained 472 yards. You gained 370. So they only outgained you by 100 yards. You actually ran more plays than them. Let's see, where's time of possession? You held on to the football for 10 more minutes, or let's say 7 more minutes than them. 33:55 to 26:05. You know, the gap between, you average 4.9 yards per play. They average 6.6 yards per play. You also turn the football over twice, which, hey, you go on the road in the SEC and you turn it over twice and you do something stupid like you did at the goal line. I'm not surprised you lost by 25 points. But this loss is on the team. This loss ain't on the offense. This loss ain't on the defense. This loss is on the football team. Everybody lost this football game. Would you disagree? Do you think defense really played their best football game? Because I don't. I certainly don't. And I'm not trying to pile on a defense that's done wonders for you this season, but they didn't look very good, guys. They didn't look very good. But I continue to preach and inject perspective, guys. You're just not going to get the fire this guy, fire that guy. You're not going to get that energy from me because maybe I set my expectations lower than you all did, but it is year one. It is year one of a rebuild. I said that after Kentucky. I'll say it here yet again. Was Saturday fun? No, it was not. It was not. But I just don't see the point in exhausting the energy. I don't see the point in Gamecock fans exhausting the energy. It's year one, guys. I'm giving Shane Beamer at minimum 5 years. I'm just going to tell you that right now. I'm giving him at minimum 5 years. It's going to take time to build this thing back. It's going to take recruiting classes on recruiting classes on recruiting classes. You got to have time to build it. You got to have time to build it. You got to let him do his thing and get his players in there. I just think to draw conclusions on any coaches without them having any of their personnel in is a fool's errand. I really do. Now, again, like I said, with that being said, you got to be better across the board. I would expect your defense to rebound. Offensively, though, where do the answers come from? What adjustments are made? Again, this is a coaching staff that is learning on the fly. But with that being said, hey, it's been 6 weeks, guys, and you're getting paid a lot of money. You're getting paid a lot of money to make big-time decisions. And we live in an instant gratification culture. People want it now. They don't want to wait 5 years. They don't want to be patient. That's the reality. It's the unfortunate reality, but it's the reality. But I don't know if it's stemming from, I didn't have the expectations that this football team was going to win 7 or 8 games this year. I really, when Shane Beamer was hired, even with the positivity, and I don't know if fans let themselves or some people let themselves get carried away with all that positivity of the welcome home tour and the changing of the culture and above all else and love and all that good stuff. But, that culture, that above all else, that love, that welcome home tour, that this, that, whatever, that's all fine and dandy. And those are things you need to build your program. Those things don't win football games, though, guys. Bottom line, that doesn't win football games. It doesn't. I did not allow myself to get lost in the hoopla of that. Execution on game day and having great players. That's what wins football games. And top to bottom, you don't have enough of them right now. You don't have enough big-time ball players. You don't. Now, again, there's no excuse for how the way that game started. It can't happen. It can't happen. You can't fall down 28-0. It can't happen. You can't have a stupid play call and get it on the goal line and basically just take yourself out of the football game. It can't happen. But it's going to take time. It's going to be a process, guys. Embrace the suck. Embrace the struggle. Because I understand the first 6 weeks, first 6 games, there have been some very, very frustrating moments. But gosh, guys, on the flip side, just to inject perspective here on a Monday, you're very fortunate to be 3-3 with a very good opportunity, might I add, this weekend to move to 4-3. You're very fortunate to be in that position. You could have easily lost to East Carolina. You could have lost to Troy. You could be sitting at 1-5 right now. And God knows what the temperature of the fan base would be in that scenario. So I think here on this Monday, guys, let's feels good. Just take a breath. Really in the chest. You know what I mean? Really in the chest. One more time. Okay. I'm not saying completely excuse what we saw. I'm not saying don't hold those accountable that should be held accountable, because those guys are making the money to make these decisions and put these football players in the best possible position to win. But Shane Beamer's a first-year head football coach. And I will say this, before I get off this topic, because we still got more to get into, before I get off this, I will say this on the flip side, though. I empathize with Gamecock fans. I empathize with Gamecock fans in this way. When Shane Beamer took the job at the University of South Carolina, we were all sold, you and I alike, were sold on the fact that, we're going out and getting a coach where we don't have to pay as much money, but he's going to go out and get big-time coordinator hires, right? These big-time coordinators. And so I empathize with Gamecock fans because, we basically took flyers on both Satterfield and Clayton White. Thankfully, Clayton White has worked out. But, guys, we're talking about a pair of dudes who had never called a play at the Power 5 level, much less the SEC level. So I get it. Hey, if you're out there and you didn't like Satterfield from the jump, I get your frustration. I totally understand. And when things aren't clicking, when you're not scoring points, when it's ugly to watch, everyone's to blame. All parties involved, and that includes your coaches. Certainly starts with your coaches because they're the ones getting paid the money. But I see issues all across the board right now, from coaching to personnel to just flat out execution, guys. There are plays that are there that they're just not being made. They're just not being made. So who does that fall on? The reality is this, guys. South Carolina is just a bad football team. South Carolina is doing things that bad football teams do. Nothing from this point forward should shock you. Nothing. Nothing we've seen at this point, if you see it happening again, nothing should shock you. South Carolina is a bad football team. I own it. I eat crow. I gave us far too much credit coming into this football game against Tennessee. But South Carolina is a bad football team. They're also a bad football team that might hit the over and the over-under in Vegas. They might get to 5 wins. I think getting to a bowl game feels like a bit of a stretch right now. It's not impossible. It's not impossible. I want to make that very clear. It's not impossible. But South Carolina's a bad football team. When we look back at it, top to bottom, just a bad football team. That's the only way to put it. They're a bad football team. It's so funny how fans, we can be so honest about other people's football teams. And this applies to life too. We can be honest about other people's shortcomings, other people's problems, other people's deficiencies, but we can't be honest about ourselves. We can't be honest that, hey, we're just not there yet, or we're not doing this correctly, or we're just falling short here, or we have to improve there. We just look like a football team. And this isn't my biggest takeaway, but getting into that, guys, because my biggest takeaway from this Saturday, and I went back and forth because I was like, what is my biggest takeaway? One of my biggest takeaways, guys, if you really want to know, one of my biggest takeaways is that I watched that game on Saturday and I'm like, you know, when you're really honest with yourself and you think about the roster and you think about the coaching staff, and this is no knock on Shane Beamer, by the way, but it is the reality. Really, guys, we look like a ragtag bunch being coached by a bunch of first-year head coaches and a bunch of first-year coaches in general. You mix that all together, I think the product is very reflective of the situation you're currently in. I'm not shocked to see it. I mean, we're 3-3 again. We're not 1-5. We're 3-3. We're 500. Where South Carolina has historically fallen. I mean, I just, who on God's green earth thought South Carolina should have been 5-1 at this point with the roster that they currently have and a bunch of first-year coaches, basically? Guys, you knew what you were getting for when you signed up for Shane Beamer. You weren't getting the 1-year turnaround. You weren't getting the 2-year turnaround. It's going to be a process. There's going to be plenty of bumps in the road. It's going to be a roller coaster ride. Hey, I'll be totally honest with you guys real quick because I'm always transparent with you, but I'm going to be very, very brutally honest right now because I'll tell you this. I never make predictions or projections or picks or anything of the sort. I don't create opinions for the masses. I say what's on my mind, on my heart. I'm very honest. I'm very transparent. I'm very blunt. Okay. That's how I operate. That's how I roll. So I don't just formulate things because I'm like, oh, the audience will like this. No, I'm always very honest with you because I know you can handle the truth, and the beauty is in the banter, as I always tell you all. But I picked this football team to go 6-6, right? I picked this team to go 6-6. But I'll be honest, in my heart of hearts, that I know 5-7 was probably more likely. And why is that the reason why I kept saying, you know what, I think 5-7 is more likely because I think it's more likely we have more issues and deficiencies and question marks than we are giving credit to? Yes, I always in my mind thought, you know what, 5-7 is probably more likely than my 6-6 prediction. But hey, during the summer, the welcome home tour, the positivity, no doom and gloom. Nobody wanted to be that Gamecock fan, that Gamecock entity, that Gamecock podcast. Nobody wanted to be that person picking this team to go 5-7. God forbid 4-8. Oh, you're negative. You're negative. You're hating on Beamer. Kick him from the fan base. Nobody wanted to be that guy, right? Because you were doom and gloom. You're doom and gloom. But realistically, guys, and I love the guys we have. Appreciate them. We'll always look back. Hey, when Shane Beamer in 10 years or however long it takes is winning an SEC championship at the University of South Carolina, we'll look back on this first year's team very fondly. Hey, these are the guys that laid the foundation for the future. Appreciate them. But we'll also look back and say, man, remember those days? Remember Shane Beamer's worst roster at the University of South Carolina? Remember having to depend on a D2 guy and an FCS guy to make a play? That's just the reality, guys. If you don't like that, then this ain't the show for you. I'll be totally blunt and honest with you. Not all football players are built equally. We've talked about that before. Coaching's got to be better. Personnel's got to be better. Overall execution's got to be better. It falls on everyone. It falls on everyone. But you look like a ragtag bunch being coached by a bunch of first-year coaches. That's what you look like. You put that in a blender, and this is the result you get. And it's going to be a process. It's going to be a slow grind, a slow build. That's what you signed up for, man. And the hope and the belief is that Shane Beamer's the guy that amidst all this madness, amidst the fan base being unhinged, amidst some very unfavorable results that happened over the weekend, and guys, there's more of these to come. I hate to tell you. Texas A&M just beat Alabama. Florida's Florida. Auburn looks pretty damn good. You got Mizzou on the road. You got Clemson, sure, but, I mean, you haven't done anything against them the last 6 years. There's more of these results to come, guys. But you got to be able to take it on the chin and fight through it and believe and trust the process. And I know nobody wants to do that. Nobody wants to be patient. I know it's instant gratification. I know there's some of you out there that are brainwashed by your own garnet and black blood that believe we should be so much better than we are. And the fact is, we're not. We're just not. That's why I really don't even get upset with these results. And I'm not telling you to not have hopes and aspirations and all that, but no, I guess it just doesn't surprise me anymore. It's like, hey, we kind of are who we are. Like Steve Spurrier used to say, hey, we're just not very good. Not very good. Are who we are. We are what our record says we are. Still to this point, your best win is, pick one of the two, either a 9-point win over Troy or a last-second field goal win over East Carolina. You are who you are. That's no excuse for what happened on Saturday, but that's the reality right now. Before I get off the game or the majority of talking about the game, I will agree with this, though. You got to find a way to come out of the gate stronger. I don't know what it is. I don't know why South Carolina struggles to start quickly in a game or just not start slowly, we should say. It can't happen. You got to find a way to be better. That falls on coaching. Coaching's got, guys, and that's the thing, too. I'm behind Beaver 100%, 10%, but I'm not excusing coaching. But it's a bunch of first-year coaches that are figuring this thing out on the job. I mean, I don't know what else to tell you. I didn't expect, you didn't hire Shane Beamer to be a great head coach in year one because he's not a great head coach, guys. Shane Beamer is not a great head coach right now. That's no knock on Shane Beamer. Again, it's just like anything else you do in life. The first time doing it, you're probably not very good at it. You got to learn as you go. Hey, I see it right now in his media interactions. I guarantee you in 5 years, Shane Beamer will talk to the media much, much differently than he does now. Because if you notice right now, guys, he's got a short fuse. He's got a very short fuse in the media right now. He does not like the questions. He was asked about the play calling after the game. Said, Shane, what do you think about the play calling the first 6 weeks? He said, good. And then continue to elaborate. But he's not, So he's going to grow. He's going to evolve. He's going to mature. And what you've got to hope for as a Gamecock fan is that as he grows and evolves and matures, the talent on the roster gets better and better and better and better and better. And in a couple of years, 3 to 4, maybe 5, maybe 6, it all comes together and meshes beautifully. And all of a sudden, Gamecocks football's back. And you're back to realistically competing for 8-9 win seasons. And maybe you're pushing the Georgias and the Floridas and the Tennessees. And hell, maybe it's the Kentuckys still that are up there. God forbid. Trust the process. Trust the process. Trust Shane Beamer. And honestly, guys, what other choice do you have? I mean, unless you're going to sell your fandom or you're going to quit watching South Carolina, this guy's your head football coach for the foreseeable future. So what other choice do you have? What other choice do you have? For me personally, I believe in Shane Beamer. It's rocky right now. It sucks to take the lumps, but it's the year one growing pains, and onward we go. All right, let's get to my biggest takeaway from this Saturday, guys. Again, I told you, I went back and forth on this. I certainly went back and forth on this because I'm like, what is the biggest takeaway? I'm like, did we really learn anything new? Did we learn anything new from over the weekend? And I'm not sure that we did. I'm not sure that we did. But again, I own it. I'm eating crow. I totally misjudged this game. My biggest takeaway is that Tennessee's actually ahead of schedule. You got to give credit to Tennessee. They sit at 4-2 now. Now, they might lose the next 4 games. But Josh Heupel, what he's doing, hey, they're ahead of schedule. They've got some ball players. Give them credit. Velus Jones Jr. is a stud. Jalen Hyatt, I'll never forgive Will Muschamp for that. Hendon Hooker's a good player. Tyon Evans, good player. They got good players. Jeremy Banks on defense. They got some good players on that team. They got good players. It's not like I don't feel like South Carolina lost to a bunch of scrubs necessarily. I'm not saying Tennessee's great and you should crown them, but I don't know, man. Josh Heupel's doing a pretty good job right now. Feels like Tennessee's a bit ahead of schedule. So again, that would be my biggest takeaway. Tennessee is actually ahead of schedule in this 2021 season, which sucks for Gamecock fans. It sucks to hear, but it is what it is. It is what it is right now, guys. You got to fight to change that. You've lost 3 in a row to the Bulls. You got to fight to change that. What are you going to do? Bitch and moan and complain, or get back to the drawing board and work your tail off in recruiting, work your tail off in the film room, work your tail off in the facility to beat them again. All right, let's hand out some game balls, guys. And again, by the way, I know some people complain about this. Oh, why are you handing out game balls and awards after a loss? Because I'm consistent with the content, guys. I don't give a damn. There are guys that ball out that week to week to week, whether it be win, loss, or draw, they deserve recognition. So I'm going to continue to do it. All right, let's hand out the game balls. And believe it or not, the first one will go to a player on offense. Yeah, some actually decent things happen on offense. And again, a guy who we've been questioning all season long. Where's he at? What's he doing? What's going on? I thought had a pretty solid game, and maybe, just maybe, it gives you some hope that he can return to form and bring this running game along with him. And that is running back Kevin Harris. Kevin Harris, 16 carries for 61 yards, just 3.8 yards per carry, but 2 touchdowns on the day. The only source really, or one of the only sources of really the only source of offense for South Carolina that scored. So again, Kevin Harris, the 2 touchdowns, really, really good day for him. Second game ball goes to Peyton Mangrum, man. I wanted to recognize Peyton Mangrum, former walk-on that earned a scholarship, obviously scores the touchdown on the fake punt, which had a great call by Pete Limbo and Shane Beamer there, but scores the touchdown on the fake punt. And a kid making a play like that, again, guys, I know it's 38-7, and you're thinking, man, what does it matter? Who cares? Why are you giving a game ball? But these kids that, even the guys that are walk-ons that don't play a whole lot, that will never see the glory that the starters maybe see, or guys that are going to go to the NFL, they work their asses off and compete for moments like that, just like everybody else does. So tip your cap, Peyton Mangrum, great play by you, sir, and really, really happy to see it. My final game ball, guys, and this dude, again, what's sad is what's lost in the shuffle is how good Jalen Foster's been week to week, because he just ho-hum did it again. He ho-hum did it again. 13 total tackles, 11 which were solo, by the way, a sack, and 2 tackles for loss. This dude is a machine. I mean, this dude is a tackling machine, a playmaking machine. So tip of the cap to Jalen Foster, man, what he's done to this point, he's had a dream season to this point for sure. So again, congratulations, those players I named, for winning the TSUS game balls this week. All right, let's move into slap pick of the weekend, because I think this one's going to really intrigue you. I think this one's going to really, really intrigue you. My slap pick of the weekend. This is someone who had been on a bit of a hot streak and maybe felt themselves a little bit too much and thought, you know what? I'm going to roll the dice. I'm going to push my luck a little bit. Guys, that person is me. I'm the slap dick of the weekend. I am. I'm the slap dick of the weekend. I'm putting it on myself right now. Like I said, guys, I'm eating crow. I was wrong. I misled you. I misguided you. I let my heart, I think, get the best of my pick going into the weekend. And here's the thing. Some of you may hate it when I pick certain scores. You may have hated it when I picked Kentucky to beat South Carolina. You may have said, oh, Chris is a hater. He's toxic. He's this, he's that, whatever. But what I will never be on my show and my platform, what I will never be is someone who is a sunshine pumper for the sake of being one. I will never be someone who is giving you false hope and false expectations, because that is what's unhealthy. Realism is not unhealthy. Pumping false expectations and unrealistic expectations, that's what's unhealthy. So I apologize to you all, because I was convinced, I had a gut feeling for whatever reason. And you know what? When you're in the business I'm in, when you're in the business we're in, and you make a lot of calls and you make a lot of predictions and you make a lot of picks, hey, you're going to get some of them wrong. And sure enough, I wasn't just kind of wrong. I was way off the mark. Way off the mark. I think the only thing I said that was correct was, hey, we're going to have a special teams play. Outside of that, missed the mark by a mile. So you know what? I deserve it. The Tennessee fans on Twitter that maybe you're tuned in right now, the Tennessee fans on social media that gave me hell, you know what? I couldn't even argue. I deserved it. I deserved it. I was way off. So, hey, the slap dig of the weekend, hey, sometimes you got to wear the badge of honor. Sometimes you got to own it, man. And I'll own it. I'm the slap dig of the weekend. So it's what it is. Probably not, isn't the first time. Certainly probably won't be the last. So whatever. Here we go. All right, guys, finally, let's move to the Cock of the Walk Award. And this one, I know we'll probably catch some grief on social media, but I couldn't help myself. Had a great day booting it, but the play he made, obviously, on the fake punt, 1 for 1 for 44 yards for a touchdown, a dime from this kid. Cock of the Walk this week, Kai Kroger, the punter, also had 5 punts for an average of 45.6 yards, a 51 being the long. Hey, we love special teamers on this show. So, you know, I know some of you are going to say, oh, that's how you know the game went bad, because you're giving the MVP to a punter. Maybe so, but you know what? Kai Kroger, you make a great play like that, you deserve to be recognized. Cock of the Walk Award this week, Kai Kroger. Great on you, man. Good stuff. Guys, that's going to do it for my UT breakdown and recap. And, of course, we'll continue to talk about it throughout this week on the Daily Crow and, of course, with Alex McGrath and in other ways, and other fashions, other forms. But, again, was it fun on Saturday? No, it was not. Ugly. Downright ugly many, many times. We're a ragtag bunch with a bunch of first-year head coaches, man, or a bunch of first-year coaches, I should say. We are who we are. We are what our record says we are. We should be grateful to be 3-3 and the potential of hitting the over this week on the over-under. We should be grateful for that. And, hey, there are 6 more games to go, by the way, guys. The season's not over. There are 6 more games. There are 6 more opportunities. So who knows what might happen? Maybe there is an adjustment made. Maybe there's a transformation that goes on. And what I think so funny, because many of you last week are talking, Carolina's going to beat Clemson. Carolina's going to beat Clemson. We're going to beat them. This is the year. This is the year. What's funny about it, guys, is South Carolina, assuming they beat Vandy, they could lose every game the rest of the way out. But if they somehow found a way, if we somehow find a way to beat Clemson, come on, all will be forgiven by the Gamecock fan base. Everyone who had an ill word to say about anything, it'll be sunshine and rainbows. Give this guy an extension. That one raise his salary. So, I mean, let's let it play out. Let's let it play out. Trust the process. Trust Shane Beamer. If we can do that for the long haul, if we can do that, I really do believe we'll like the results on the other side. But there are going to be bumps in the road like the one we saw on Saturday. All right, let's get into our news and notes, guys. Speaking of the game this upcoming weekend, one quick note, and that is that South Carolina has opened as a, get this, 17-point favorite. Yes, 17-point favorite over the Vanderbilt Commodores. What might also shock you is since that line opened, the Gamecocks have jumped to a 20-point favorite. So the money is pouring in on South Carolina. I know many, I'm picking Vandy to beat Carolina, man. Did you watch us play in Knoxville? I mean, hey, here's the thing. If you think that, go bet the money. I'm not stopping you. Go bet the money. Put your money where your mouth is. I'll refer you to a good book if you need it. But anyways, that's Vegas talking, not me. Carolina opens as a 17-point favorite. That has since gone up to 20. Feels big, a big spread, but Vandy, guys, is also a dumpster fire. They're terrible. So, we'll see what happens. We'll talk more about Vandy later this week. All right, we got a lot of listener questions, voicemails to get into. So without further ado, guys, let's go ahead and dive into those.
Hey, Chris. I think it looks like we wasn't prepared at all for any kind of hurry-up offense. Marcus Satterfield's play calls are definitely questionable, which is kind of worrisome. And offensive line still isn't there. Looking at 4 and 8.
Appreciate the voicemail. Yeah, very straight and to the point. I also, again, I go back to the defense. I know the offense struggled, but I was very surprised at the defense's struggles. It really felt like we were ambushed. I mean, there's no way to put it. We were ambushed. And you can say, oh, well, the offense is putting the defense in these positions. I get it, but from the jump, man, for the opening snap, we looked overwhelmed on the defensive side. So, it felt a bit uncharacteristic, but is that more of who we are than what we've seen at this point? You really missed Cam Smith. Your defensive line, again, wasn't great, especially against the run. You got problems and issues and deficiencies, guys, still on that side of the ball. It is what it is. That's just kind of who you are right now. All right, let's jump to our next voicemail.
Hey, I couldn't really watch much of the game today, and this was some of the most questionable play calling I've seen in a long time. Like, why are you going to throw with a defensive lineman? Like, I get it works in practice, but things that work in practice and don't work in the game. Just rebuild is going to take some time. Everyone better buckle in because it's going to take some time to get done. I know nobody wants to call for Marcus Satterfield's job, but, I mean, that was just a question play call. Like, you run the football all the way down inside the 5-yard line, second or third drive of the game, and then you try to get too cute. You do not have the players on this roster right now to try and get cute and draw crazy things up. This roster doesn't have those kind of players you can just get cute with and run trick plays. Yeah, on the Vanderbilt, and trying to get a win on Saturday, this is John, by the way. So, the game didn't go like we wanted. But everyone buckle in to take some time. Go Cox. Thanks for taking my question. Bye.
John, appreciate you calling, my man. John Kruger, a guy who calls into the Daily Crow a lot. So, John, appreciate you. Very well said. There's no justifying that play call. I'm not sitting here saying, hey, fire Marcus Satterfield today or whatever, but no justifying that play call whatsoever. I'd agree with you 110%. Worst play call I've ever seen. You cannot convince me that was a good play call. Bottom line, end of story. So, John, appreciate the call, my friend.
Hey, guys. Go Cox. Spurs up. I just wanted to say I think we need to pump the brakes on the whole, Shane Beamer's team. There's too many penalties, too many this, too many that. We got problems up front on both sides of the ball. We just don't have the talent to compete with these SEC teams, and it shows. And, we played against East Carolina. They're a pretty good football team. It was close, but when you go against a team like Kentucky or Georgia, it just shows, and it shows in a big way. We got to get some recruits, some big offensive linemen, some big defensive linemen through the door.
Yeah, really good stuff. Hey, appreciate the voicemail. Again, I think I saw this banter over the weekend, but people have to realize, remember, this is Will Muschamp's team, man. It really is. Outside of a few guys, I mean, this is the same team that won 6 combined games over the last 2 seasons. So do with that what you will. All right, let's jump to our next voicemail here.
Man, I hate to say this, but sadly, I think this is going to be a terrible season for the Gamecocks. Beamer, first couple of games, yeah, he showed us something. The offense has showed us nothing. It's been awful. Even since Dirty's got in, we've been begging for Dirty to get in. He's been fucking terrible. There ain't been one. Well, there's been a few things he's done good, but it's been nothing to actually move the ball down the field and convert on third down, which is the main thing that's getting to us right now. We played sloppy on D this first half. I think really the main thing is we came back on offense a little bit in the second half, but really the main thing on offense, we need to be moving the ball. And we got last year we had the SEC rusher. of the year, had 1,400-something yards. Kevin Harris. We got Marshawn Lloyd, a 5-star. It's kind of his first year playing in the SEC, since he's been hurt with his knee injury. We got Juju McDowell, too, so they should be no problem with rushing the ball. There's something wrong with the offensive line and the play calling. Whoever's making them play calls, they need to get the fuck out of here, especially the one on the 1-yard line with Jordan Burch trying to pass the fucking ball. All right. Appreciate it.
About as raw and unfiltered as it gets, folks. Where to even begin? I hear you with the frustration. Again, guys, I still don't. I don't look at Luke Doty as the problem. Has Luke Doty been perfect? Not at all. Have I been disappointed with the lack of quarterback run game this offense? Yes, I have. I guess I don't. Again, I'm a big control what you control kind of guy. And I also, I just don't, I guess I don't spend my time complaining about Luke Doty because, again, guys, even if you don't like Luke Doty, even if you don't think he's a great player, there's no better option on this roster. And don't tell me Zeb Noland. Don't tell me Zeb Noland. If there was a better option, do you think Shane Beamer wouldn't be playing him? That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. So, again, the lack of running game is what's really killing this team. The lack of running game is what's killing this team. I said it for months during the preseason. If you can't run the football, you're not going to win. So, again, the fact that South Carolina's 3-3 with how badly the run game has performed, it's a minor miracle. It's truly a minor miracle. It's a minor miracle. So, everything's got to get better top to bottom, my man. I agree with you. I understand the frustration. Trust me. All right. We got a couple more voicemails, and then we'll get into your listener questions, and we'll get into our interview.
Hey, go Cox, Spurs up. Just wanted to say, everybody can say what they want about play calling, scheme, everything like that. From what I've seen on the field versus SEC teams, not the ECUs or the other teams we play, from SEC teams, we are just no match for them. We don't have any talent. That was the one thing we had that Spurrier could bring to Columbia was he could bring recruits there. He didn't even really have to do that much recruiting. His legendary status and clout got most of the recruits through the door, and he surrounded himself with really good coordinators. I just think that if we're going to make a difference, we got to start snatching in-state recruits from some of these schools. We got recruits in the top 50 that are undecided. I think we need to be beating down some doors for those recruits immediately. Athletes, anywhere. We could use help everywhere. All right, take it easy. Go Cox.
Jimmy's and Joe's, not the X's and O's. I agree, my friend. Great point.
Beamer's my guy, and the whole coaching staff is my guy that he assembled. But, man, the last 2 weeks, the play calling has been questionable. Can we at least get a game plan and stick to it? It seems like they're just out there hitting buttons, calling random plays. They have no rhythm, rhyme, or reason. Please, come up with a game plan and stick to it. I've also had probably one too many cold ones, but you get where I'm coming from, Chris.
No, I appreciate the voicemail, my man. Thank you. No, hey, I get it. I get where you're coming from, dude. It's yeah, an identity. You still don't have one. You still don't have an identity. It's just it's tough. When you can't run the ball and you're not really built to pass it, what are you supposed to do? I don't know. I don't have the answer, my man. And that's that lack of running game is just making everything look that much worse, and it's making Marcus Satterfield's play calling look that much worse. So, do you need to go recruit better offensive linemen? Is it, and I will say this, by the way, that I thought the running backs looked as good as they looked all season. I saw some flashes from Kevin, and obviously Juju continues to be Juju. And I saw even some flashes from Marshawn Lloyd, but you're just not seeing it consistently enough. You're just not seeing it consistently enough. All right, one more voicemail, then we'll get into your questions.
Hey, Chris. So, yeah, that was pretty frustrating 3-hour football game to watch. But, it's kind of what I kind of expected it all week, considering the way Tennessee had ran through Missouri. I knew it was kind of a bad matchup for us. And then you find out Cam Smith was out, R.J. Rogers was out the first half. You're just limited with guys in the defensive backfield, and Tennessee took advantage of it. You got to give them credit. Hooker made some really good throws. Guys made some really good catches, and they took advantage of the soft coverage. The one time we did actually play up a little bit, they hit the long bomb for a touchdown.
second half, once R.J. Rogers came in, Clayton White changed things up. I think you saw the defense actually get a little bit of confidence. I mean, we went away with the game with 6 sacks. I mean, that's pretty impressive. And don't tell me, people are trying to say, well, Tennessee took their foot off the gas. Yeah, no, I don't think so. They were still going, hurry up. They were still throwing the ball. It's just South Carolina made some adjustments and actually found something. Offensively, I know everybody's on the fire, Marcus Satterfield train, but I have to be honest, I've seen him make adjustments. You've seen last week moving the pocket, I guess with Luke Doty, his legs, feel a little bit more comfortable. Moving the pocket with more bootlegs, letting him throw on the run. This week, you see us line up in a true I formation when a true lead blocker actually has success with it. Now, I know this could be a big point on your podcast. Other people say the inexplicable play call inside the 1 yard line or 1-2 yard line. You were pounding the ball out of the I formation. You put in Dak Joyner for a little wildcat at the one, which made no sense. He gets destroyed. If he hands it off to Marshawn Lloyd walks in for a touchdown. But then you put Jordan Birch in there, and look, I'm okay with the trick plays. You're coming into this game, you're going to need to run some trick plays, generate something, but that was not the time for it. Not with the circumstances leading up to that. And I don't know. But, let's go back to another trick play. How about Kai Kroger with the dime of the day on that pass? That was beautiful. Excellent time to call it. It was a perfect play. I'm glad we got a touchdown out of it. Kai Kroger comes in with the only touchdown pass of the day. But South Carolina actually started running the ball, I know, a little bit in the second half with the inside zone kind of up the middle and had a little success. You see Kevin Harris kind of starting to become a little more comfortable and looking a little more like the Kevin Harris we saw last year. So, I mean, there's a lot of bad. I mean, you're down 38-7.5, a lot of bad. But let's come out, and I'm getting tired of hearing all the fire this, fire this. Let the season play out and let Shane Beamer make his decisions at the end of the year. If the offensive line continues to look like this, then I think a change should be made. But let's let the left half of the season.
Tim, my man, it cut off, but preach, Tim. I love it. By the way, you made a point, and I want to touch on it because I apologize. I glossed over this somehow. Yeah, the defensive line was 6 sacks. I know they weren't great against the run. Obviously, we talked about that, but 6 sacks in that football game. So do give credit to Jimmy Lindsey's group against the pass. They did get after Hendon Hooker, especially later in that game. But, Tim, I think a lot of great points, obviously. I mean, again, you mentioned the play calling and the play call inside the one. I think we all agree that was an insane play call. So a lot of great points, Tim. I appreciate you calling in. I appreciate everybody for the voicemails. Let's get into your questions now. Hank Bobo 34 says defense needs to learn to start early. Hasn't started early all season. Let's see. We got a bunch here. JD Paget 14. Do you think we need a better quarterback or a better offensive line? Better offensive line. Braden Johnson said we got to start the game with the same energy and fight from the second half. Yeah, you got to start faster. That's it. Maddox Free 11 says horrible effort on all sides of the ball. None of these guys want to be out there. I don't like those takes, guys. You don't know their minds. You don't know their hearts. You don't know what effort they're playing with. Just because your team's not putting out the result you want to see, that doesn't mean they're playing with no effort. I think that's just insulting to say. So I disagree with you. Let's see. Wesley Oakley, opinion on Doty after today's performance. I got no issue with the way he played. I mean, is he a perfect player? No, he's not. There's certainly, areas he's got to improve, but he needs help. He needs help, man. Everybody on our roster needs help. There isn't a quarterback out there that's going to go out there and just single-handedly win the game. There's not probably a quarterback in the country that we could play that would do very well in our offense because they would get no help. So we need help. Let's see. Let's see. B Freeman 974 takes time. We will be something next year. Bryce Duncan 1 says we need to just come out and throw the ball 90 times a game because we're not running on anyone. C. Mark Goff, need a quarterback change. God. Luke Haley 17, do you still think we can make a bowl game? Can we? Yes. Will we? My money's on no. Krusty Andy says Juju over Harris over Lloyd. I mean, Juju's been very good. You got to get in the ball more. No question. You got to get in the ball more. Krusty Andy, Chris, what positives can we pull from this train wreck? No significant injuries. I mean, the run game looked improved in the second half. Not a ton. Hey, 6 sacks for the D-line. JPT 4-1-4-1-1. Rome wasn't built overnight. Thank God for hard liquor and beer. Spurs up. Let's see. Captain _ Way didn't watch the game, play golf with the boys, needed the buzz to see the score, honestly. I hear you, man. I hear you. Caleb J. Dotson, let's hope Shane Bieber has a good recruiting strategy. Gonna have to. Hunter 6, Satterfield needs to go. Horrible play calling for the 4th week in a row. Let's see. KJ Gonzalez, I mean, at least Clemson looks worse than Tennessee this year, so there's that. 7DJP7, I'd love to know what was said at halftime that changed everything so much. Yeah, we look like a different team in the second half. I don't know what it was. Nehemiah says, what's going on with Xavier Legette? I think he's just been battling injury, to be honest with you. Final question. Eric Reese _ what are you most looking forward to seeing from the offense against Vanderbilt? As Beamer said going into the Tennessee game, what am I most looking forward to seeing on offense against Vandy? Points, touchdowns. How about touchdowns and actual points and some sustained drives? How about some big plays? God, how about some big plays? Wouldn't that be something to see? So, all right. Again, we'll talk about Vandy a little bit later this week. We got a lot to get into this week, guys. The podcast, the Daily Crow, all the content, all that good stuff. And again, appreciate you all for the voicemails, the questions, always being interactive and engaging with the show. Guys, great stuff here on a Monday as always, guys. But don't go anywhere. We have a fantastic interview, great conversation, a throwback interview, by the way, from 2 years ago. Former Gamecocks baseball player and current assistant coach Scott Wingo joined me. And guys, again, Scott Wingo, one of the all-time legends. We break down some of his most legendary moments. It's an interview you surely will not want to miss. So don't go anywhere. So again, guys, thank you all so much for tuning in. Appreciate your love, your support. We got a packed week ahead, so stay tuned for everything. But again, appreciate you all. Have a great rest of your Monday and enjoy this conversation with former Gamecocks second baseman and current assistant coach Scott Wingo. All right, joining us today on the Spurs Up Show is a man that played at South Carolina from 2008 to 2011. He played on both national championship teams in 2010 and 2011, served as a captain his senior season, earned first-team All-SEC honors, and was named the most outstanding player at the College World Series in 2011. He's also a two-time SEC All-Defensive Team selection, played in 254 career games at South Carolina, the second highest total in school history, and was also drafted in the 2011 MLB draft by the Los Angeles Dodgers in the 11th round. I'm very pleased to welcome Scott Wingo, former Gamecocks second baseman of the show. Scott, it's a pleasure to have you on, and again, appreciate you taking the time.
Thank you guys for having me. It's good to get down and talk a little bit about Gamecock baseball, football, and really all the sports, man. It's an exciting time to be a Gamecock fan and definitely to be back in Columbia.
Absolutely. So let's start from the beginning with you, Scott. Obviously, you played at Malden High School. Your hometown is Greenville, South Carolina. But even bigger than that, your father, Bill Wingo, actually played at Clemson, was a two-time All-ACC selection at Clemson, was also a letter winner in football. Talk about your upbringing. I know that Malden's a powerhouse. Malden's always got a very good baseball team. But just kind of your upbringing, being from the upstate, and was there ever any pressure on you to go to Clemson, or what eventually just drew you to South Carolina? Because I'm sure that had to be a very interesting conversation during the recruitment and when you eventually signed.
Right. Me and my two brothers. There was three boys. We had family had three boys, but we grew up big Clemson fans. I never forget. I think I had an 8th grade birthday party at a Clemson baseball game, and actually threw out the first pitch, and we had a whole little party up there. Just right outside the field. But I was a huge Clemson fan. I remember I was on the field. I believe it was Rod Gardner when he pushed off the South Carolina football game. I was actually like on the field, not on the field, but on the sideline. Obviously wearing all orange. But growing up, I was a Clemson fan. Really, it was high school when I started going to different camps. I would go to South Carolina camp. My mom actually grew up in Batesburg, Leesville, South Carolina, and we would always stay with her parents at their house. So we'd get our grandpa would take us up to camps. We stay all day there. Go spend the night Saturday night there. Get up, go to the camp Sunday, then drive back home. But I kind of grew as I got around Coach Tanner. Around Columbia. I think when I was probably a sophomore or junior, I kind of grew to really, really like Coach Tanner and really like how South Carolina ran things. and just, my grandfather who passed away in 2009, he would always go with us. And I just there was a connection there that I just grew to, love. I definitely Coach Tanner and Coach Toman were big parts of that in my recruiting process. But it was really my junior year when I came to Carolina for my, a recruiting trip. Coach Toman, it was at the old Sarge Fry, and I knew how he got my dad because he said a bunch of stats from a former Clemson player. And he said, we believe that, you can be this kind of player, all ACC, 304 batting average or whatever he said. And I forgot, he named how many errors he didn't have, but something errors. And he just read my dad's stats out, and he looked at him. He said, do you know who that guy was? And my dad just smiled and said, I believe that's me. And so I think, Coach Toman really did his homework there on my recruiting process. And really after that trip, I knew exactly where I wanted to go. And Jack Leggett, he offered me, but I just, he did it the right way too. There was a passion I had about South Carolina, and I just fell in love with them from that moment forward. But actually when I committed, I could tell my dad was a little bit, he was a little bit shocked. I think he thought I was going to take a little bit more time, but when I told him, he was like, you sure that's what you want to do? I said, yes, sir. But that's really how I kind of came to South Carolina.
So it sounds like he was definitely supportive, at least in the decision. It wasn't like where he was trying to push you one way or another, just kind of wanted you to go for the best fit, if you will, for you specifically.
Right. You're right. And even when I told him, he was shocked, but it wasn't like I don't like this kind of shock. It was, he was definitely, he just wanted me to make the right decision. And, he had my back and was behind me, from when I stepped foot at Carolina. He would never wear, I feel like actually he started to wear this. He started to wear black to when we play at Clemson or something like that. I think, he didn't want to, go too all out because that's, he's in the Hall of Fame at Clemson. So it was, I'm sure it's tough on him with his clients and his customers and, former players, but he enjoyed it, and he was definitely, had my back 100%,
Absolutely. So getting into your career at South Carolina, you get to the Gamecocks, 2008, your first season. You talked about a little bit earlier. I want to touch on this. Ray Tanner, obviously a legendary Hall of Fame type head coach. He's got an impact differently on everyone. We were lucky enough to talk to Michael Roth last year, and he really had some great insight on, the impact that Coach Tanner had on him. And it definitely sounds like that Coach Tanner was a huge reason you decided to go to the University of South Carolina. What was your relationship like with Ray Tanner, and what was his impact on you on and off the baseball field?
Well, Ray Tanner was the best person I could have had for my career, best coach I could have had for my career, because, I came into South Carolina undersized, 5'9", 5'10", $155. But one thing I was a little bit, like he always used to say, I would always kind of just flirt with the edge a little bit. Always, I did things the right way. I wasn't a bad kid. I just, sometimes in practices, I'd be cutting off a little bit, or, shoot, I missed the bus one time when I played. So, that tells you a little bit. So he was tough on me. He was tough on me from the beginning. My freshman year, sophomore year, really, really just was, tough. And that was really, looking back, that was really good for me because he taught me a lot about not just, life, but how you do things. But Coach was huge. Trying to think of a few stories I can give you. But he just was, he was just great. He's a great person. He cares for you, and it just was huge for my career.
Yeah, I was gonna say, just kind of talking about the Ray Tanner stories. It's funny, we were actually able to talk to Trey Dyson last year as well. He obviously played much earlier than you guys did, early 2000s, and he would always say that when he heard the current guys, or the I guess the later teams that played under Ray Tanner, he always thought that you guys had it easy, that Ray Tanner was, for lack of a better term, kind of a hard ass, and he was very tough to play for. And it was funny because Michael Roth kind of echoed the same things, just as far as, there were some days, like, he would bring the best out in you, but there were some days where, like, you hated him just because he was so tough on you. And it's just funny to hear those stories from different guys, because it seems to be kind of a common theme with Ray Tanner that he used that method to get the best out of his players and the best out of his teams, and it obviously worked.
Yeah, definitely. It's a funny story. Coach Tanner and I have the same birthday. That's kind of like, I don't know. I know that has nothing to do with it, but it is pretty funny that, Coach Tanner's birthday is March 25th, just like mine. I thought that was hilarious when I found that out. But, Coach would get on you. And I think one thing, I don't know if I admit this, but occasionally, Coach would be giving me, just let me have it on the field. I never forget my freshman year. I think I like caught a ball behind my back, like a ball up the middle. I was playing shortstop, I think. One practice, I caught the ball behind my back, and he was like yelling at me, like, "Hey, you missed that ball in a game," like, all this stuff. And I was really good at just kind of not chirping back, but just kind of saying something to say, "Yes, sir," just really quick, just yeah, I got you. And I think at times that probably I got under his skin, just because, if you're yelling at someone, you expect them to show you, not respect, because I respected him, but just to sit there and listen to him for a second. Well, I'll just, I got you, and just run back to my position, hit me another ball, I got you, coach. Yeah, I caught the ball, something like that. But I think sometimes I would get under his skin a little bit, just because I was, I had fun out there, man. I was every minute I was on that field, it was, I was really good at leaving everything, say class, say having a bad day, all out, outside the field, anything I had, struggles with, I was really good at leaving them in the dugout and just going out on that field and just trying to understand that, hey, man, this is a whole new day to play baseball, and this is about to be fun, just to be able to go out on the field,
Absolutely. So moving into your career actually on the field, like you're saying, 2008, your freshman season, I would say you have a pretty solid freshman campaign. Hit 6 home runs, 17 RBIs, hit 230 overall, and had a 978 fielding percentage, which obviously you proved to be an excellent, outstanding fielder your time at South Carolina. How were you able to make, because again, you didn't have I wouldn't say a great freshman season, but definitely a solid freshman year. What do you attribute to you making such a smooth transition going from high school to your first year of college, and what were maybe some of the biggest challenges you faced going to the college level?
I think that's a good question, because I think my freshman year, I knew coming in that I just, offensively, I just wasn't even close to guys like Justin Smoke, Reese Havens, James Darnell, everybody. Whit Muirfield came in my freshman year. I mean, he probably hit what? He hit over 320, 330. I don't even know what he hit, but I mean, Whit Muirfield came in as a pretty polished hitter. And I knew I wasn't that, but I think what gave me confidence was I understood that defensively, and, I believe this, that I thought I was better than every single person on that team and in that whole state at playing defense. And I think that kind of kept my confidence, really high, because, I have really good relationships with my brother and obviously my family. And he'd always tell me, hey, right when you get the hitting down, you're the total package. And I kind of stayed positive with the hitting. I had a really good eye at the plate too, though. I had pretty good eye at the plate. Obviously, if you have a good eye, you still have to hit the ball. But I had a lot of walks. I got hit by a pitch all the time. If it was anywhere close to me, looking back, these pitchers out there, they didn't realize that if it was 0-2 and if they're coming inside, that's the worst formula you could throw to me, because I'm going to just wear it on the kneecap, or I'm just going to wear it wherever you throw it if it's coming at me. So, the best formula to pitch to me would probably just go right at me, even if 0-2, but
yeah, I was going to say, I was looking at the 08 stats. You set a USC freshman record with 17 hit by pitches. I mean, that's a crazy stat. crazy record to own there.
Oh yeah, Brainerd Cooper, man, I got to give him a shout out, because I'd come to the training room with like 3 whelps, like purple whelps on my right leg. And we just wrap it, tape it, ice it, and just be good to go the next day. But I mean, he just, he took care of me my whole my entire 4-year career. But yeah, man, I just didn't get out of the way. And I think that probably was contribute that to backyard baseball when we were little, man. My brothers would throw that tennis ball as hard as they could right at me, and I just kind of wear it and just, I think that I can kind of give that credit to backyard baseball when I was little.
Absolutely. I was going to ask you, what do you think that your biggest issue was at the plate? Because like you proved later in your career, we're going to get to in a little bit. I mean, specifically the 2010 National Championship Series against UCLA, where you were able to draw the walk. You definitely proved you had a good eye. What would you say, in your opinion, was maybe some of the bigger challenges you faced at the plate specifically?
There's a few things, but I think one of the biggest was my approach. But, there's two sides to that. My approach was always pull. I love to pull the ball. And, I saw my freshman year and definitely saw my sophomore year that I just had to switch, just kind of break it down and just regroup, because I think left center, middle of the field was not, I could not, consistently hit the ball, to left center, to left field. It was just tough for me. And I kind of got in the cage and just broke it down. I never forget, I went to a hitting guy after my sophomore year, and he really just broke it down and said, hey, you've got to understand your top hand and what your bottom hand is doing. And, you can't just go to a tee and just hit off a tee and try to hit it to left field. You've got to have muscle memory and knowing exactly what your top and bottom hand are doing. And really, it just broke it down of, I got a half bat and started hitting that half bat with my left arm, left hand only. Got the half bat, started hitting my right hand only, and tried to incorporate, both hands after I was probably 30 to 50 swings done with both of my hands. And I think that muscle memory, it clicked for me. Obviously I got stronger after my sophomore season, which was huge. But I think just understanding that, hey, I've got to stay up the middle. I've got to let the ball travel. But that muscle memory with my hands and my arms were pretty huge for me, I thought. And just staying in the cage. The cage is the biggest thing. You can go take batting practice all you want, but I think the cage definitely was my biggest attribute to developing as a hitter.
No, absolutely, for sure. And I definitely want to get into some more specifics as far as hitting specifics as we get into your later seasons. But 2009 was a very special season for some different reasons. Obviously, South Carolina moved from Sarge Fry Field to Founders Park. I guess it was Carolina Park or Carolina Field, whatever it was called. I'm not sure if it was Founders Park that season, but I remember specifically when that was happening, and I remember I was a senior in high school and thinking to myself, how much I loved Sarge Fry, and it's like, why would they ever get rid of Sarge? They don't need a new ballpark. And then you see the ballpark they got, and you're like, okay, so this is why they did this. Talk about just how cool it was to, be the first team to open up at that ballpark, because it's without a doubt, if not the best, one of the top 3 or 4, venues in the entire country for college baseball.
Yeah, I'll never forget. I want to say Darius Rucker was the opening day national anthem. I mean, my freshman year, I never forget opening day. I was nervous, man. I was just straight nervous. And Justin Smoke, he was a junior that year, and he looked at me and was like, "Look at you, Wingo, you're nervous." And of course I was nervous, but I said, "No, I'm not. You are." I think that was my exact line. "No, I'm not. You are." And then they called my name out, and I ran out there, and they hit me a ball, I think the first inning, and made a play, and I felt pretty good. But that moment, I was probably almost, that sophomore season with all those fans and that brand new park, Darius Rucker singing the national anthem. That was a close second, if not first, for how much butterflies I had. That was probably the most packed you'll ever see that place, that opening game. I mean, it was unbelievable. But yeah, that field and that stadium Coach Tanner built definitely helped us take off, from a program standpoint, and just obviously, man, one of the best fields in the country,
Absolutely. So one thing I remember specifically about the 2009 season, and unfortunately it's not a positive note, is you guys go down to the Greenville Regional and fall to, I'm not sure if the final game was to East Carolina or who it was, but you guys lose out in the Greenville Regional. I remember that one being specifically I just remember that being tough for some reason. Like, it's very vivid in my mind. That was a really tough loss, tough regional loss. And then obviously you guys come back in 2010 and win the national championship. Just talk about from a team standpoint, what was the mindset like going, and really all 4 years you can speak on this, but going from 2009 to 2010, was the expectation for you guys within the locker room every single year that we want to get to Omaha and win the national championship? I mean, because it had never been done before, obviously. I mean, what were the expectations like within the locker room? Because obviously those teams were filled with talent, but again, it was something that had never been done before at South Carolina.
Yeah, I mean, going in, kind of backtracking a little bit, 2008, man, we had a team that talent-wise was unbelievable, and I was bitter at that. We lost to NC State, and I thought we had a team that could really go make it Omaha that year. So 2009, we had, East Carolina. We're up, at least, 4 or 5 runs, something like that. I mean, we were up. I hit a home run that game. I mean, it was one of those games that everything was going right. But they came back. Guy hit a walk-off single at the middle, and it just took our heart out, man. I thought that team was a really good team too. But I think we were just hungry. And for me, as individually, I had a terrible year, and it kind of brought light to my career, because I had a meeting with Coach Tanner after that happened. After our end of the season meetings, and he just told me, "Hey, man, we've got to go get a second baseman. I know this has been your job for 2 years, but I've got to go get a second baseman to come here and help us offensively." And the one thing I respected the most about that was he was, completely honest, completely just straight real with me, rather than say, "Hey, you're going to have some competition." No, he told me your job is no longer, you don't have it anymore. And that put a burning just fire inside of me that if that meeting doesn't happen, I don't know if I'm as hungry as I am going in that summer, because I walked out of that meeting knowing that if I don't play and outperform him in the fall, or whoever it was, I didn't know who it was Adrian Morales who came in, but I didn't, I was thinking in that summer, if I don't outperform this guy, whoever it is, I'm not playing baseball. I'll be a defensive replacement or just barely play. And shoot, I've been playing for about 18, 19 years. So I just got hit right in the mouth, and I had to figure out what I was going to do. So I just got a little fired up, and every single day, in that weight room, it was on my mind for sure. So back to your question, now losing that regional, I think, yeah, you're right. Like, how do you go from, just losing to a regional championship to thinking, okay, we can go win the national championship? But I think we just had the group of guys, Whit Muirfield, Blake Cooper, Price, Jackie. I mean, Morales came in, Walker came in, I believe. Yeah, 2010.
Yep.
But there were so many guys, Jay Brown. I mean, so many guys that did things the right way, and knew what it took to win. We just had to, we were not far away from getting Omaha 8 and 9. So we knew we had the talent. It was just, a couple of things. I mean, that 2009 regional, man, that's tough to even think about, because we had those guys on the ropes, man, out away or something like that. That one dude hit a 450-foot bomb, remember, in left field against us. I mean, I didn't even hardly look at it. You just knew that was going off the bat. And ECU, man, that place got loud,
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm sure it had to be extra sweet to watch the Gamecocks go to Greenville this past season and get the win in that regional, get over East Carolina. I know that was a lot of fun for Gamecock fans because, like I said, that place can get really rowdy. You talked about going in your junior season. You know, obviously in that summer, you got a lot bigger, stronger, faster, and I would say it definitely paid off. You had your highest career home run total, hitting nine home runs, which, I mean, you hit 11 your first 2 seasons combined. So you hit 9 home runs your junior year. Would you contribute that fully to just the off-season workout program you did, kind of getting back in the cages and rediscovering your swing? I mean, what would you say led to that home run output for you?
You know, I would say a little both because, and the reason I know the first half of the season, Nick Ebert was that season. I tried to emulate him a little bit because he'd always stay real crouched in that back leg. Mm. And as you know, he had 23 homers.
Yeah, he could smash. He could smash.
Yeah. So I tried to emulate him a little bit, and it worked, and it was working well until I pulled my hamstring and then kind of tweaked my quad. And I don't know if you remember this, but the last half of the season, man, I was beat up. Like Coach Tanner sat me down before the SEC tournament and kind of wanted to just sit me down and not play me. And I had to, you know, fight a little bit. I didn't even know I was in the lineup, you know, the first game of the no, you know what? I'm sorry, that was the year prior. But anyways, that was the year prior. I completely screwed that up. But no, I was beat up. But yeah, that strength, you know, Billy Anderson, I was working out with him every day, him and Brady Thomas. That definitely contribute that to my 2010 season.
Absolutely. So I want to ask you this because you mentioned Christian Walker. 2010 was his freshman season. I was able to ask Michael Roth this as well. But that 2010 season, obviously, you guys go up to Myrtle Beach, play Coastal Carolina in the Super Regionals. Before I talk about specifically, you know, the feelings of getting that final out and going to Omaha, do you think that ball that Christian Walker hit has landed yet?
No. The answer to that is no. Ball was a moon ball. Still might be up there. He hit that ball, and I think you knew that was gone from Columbia, man. I mean, that ball was crushed.
Yeah.
But
yeah, no,
he's
absolutely.
still hitting balls like that.
For sure. Yeah, for sure. He's still smashing for sure. But getting back to that game, you guys again bouncing back from the 2009 season. You win the regional again. You're not hosting the Supers. You go to Myrtle Beach. You beat Coastal Carolina again in dramatic fashion. What was that feeling like? I mean, I feel like I can guess your answer as far as just the excitement and the exhilaration. But in that moment, what was that feeling like once you got that final out and you knew that South Carolina was going back to Omaha?
Yeah, you know, you always believed in yourself, and we always believed in our team. But to see it happen was, you know, it was, I won't say surreal because we believed in ourselves, but it was just unbelievable. You know, like our family came out on the field, you know, first time we've been in a while, first time we've ever been as a team or anybody on that team. Coach Tanner had been, Coach Holbrook had been with North Carolina, but I mean, it was just unbelievable, you know. And Coastal, by the way, was definitely maybe the best team we played, even in Omaha. Those guys were unbelievable. You know, they came at you with arms and speed. Rico Noel in center. I mean, they were good all around, 1-9, and we just had to fight, and we just, you know, we came out on the right side.
Absolutely. So you guys go to Omaha 2010. I know Gamecock fans will never forget, but I kind of want to walk through what happened. You guys are facing elimination against Oklahoma. You're able to come back. We obviously all know the story, Jackie Bradley Jr. with the huge hit, and you guys are able to rally and win that game. When that one happened, you know, it's funny. Again, I know I've brought it up a couple of times, but we talked to Michael Roth, and he actually said after you guys lost that first game, you know, he really wasn't sure. I'm curious to get your mindset because he wasn't sure. He was like, well, this trip might be over. You know, glad we made it to Omaha, but, you know, who knows what's going to happen from here. Did you guys as a team, did your confidence ever waver even when you were facing elimination that, no big deal, we can rattle off 3, 4, however many wins it was in a row and take home the trophy?
We always knew we could win and get back to it, but we kind of, we were the group of guys where I'm almost smiling, I'm laughing a little bit thinking about this. When we got down to elimination, I don't know if it was Roth or somebody had the smart idea of saying, hey, let's just keep winning so we can get more meal money. Let's just at least make some more, a little bit of meal money to stay out here, getting to the Oklahoma game, we were believing, one game at a time, anything can happen, but we hadn't been in that situation. We had to go rattle off, 5 or 6 in a row to win the thing. But getting down to Oklahoma with Jackie Bradley down to, 2-2 count, 1 strike away from going home, you kind of, at that point, you're just looking at Jackie saying, well, Jack, help us out, buddy. Let's go, So, yeah, I mean, there's times where, you can't lie to yourself. It was, shoot, back against the wall. We're a strike away, and we're out away from going home. But, there are some special people and special things happen that year. I always you think about Baylor Teal. I mean, that year right there, there's the good Lord definitely does some special things, and he definitely did something special that year. And you can't even look past that, because that's stronger than anything. Any part of that season is what, the story behind that and how strong he was for us. But what was I going to say? Oh yeah, I played ball. I played with the Dodgers organization with Oklahoma's catcher, Tyler Ogle. And he tells me till this day, and he'd always give me, we try to talk some trash. He'd always say that 2-2 count to Jackie Bradley was a strike. And so what I did, I got on YouTube and I screenshotted and paused right when that ball was crossing the plate, clearly 6 inches inside, And I showed him that and obviously texted him that, and might text him that actually when we get off the phone. But yeah, I mean, he always said that was a strike, but it was clearly a ball. Good take by Jackie, So I thought that was pretty funny that I got to kind of relive those moments with Tyler when I played with him.
Absolutely. So after that, you guys are still facing elimination, obviously. You're facing your arch rival in the Clemson Tigers, who you had actually lost the series to, I believe, earlier that season. We all know, and I'm sure you guys were reminded of it if you didn't know, the history of South Carolina and Clemson in Omaha specifically, when South Carolina was able to come back from elimination and eliminate Clemson, beat them twice in Omaha. Going into those games against Clemson, because I really don't feel like you need to hype up a rivalry anymore, especially South Carolina Clemson, which I'd say is the best rivalry in college baseball. How much did you guys hear about all the history, and how much was that in the back of your mind when you guys took the field against them?
Yeah. I think after we beat Oklahoma, not everybody was kind of talking about it, but you heard a couple rumblings that this is who we wanted, I mean, not everybody was just saying this is who we wanted, but there was talk of, hey, that's who we want to play right there. If we got to beat anybody twice, that's who you want to play, because 1, it's our rival, and 2, there was some there's some in-state guys that took that rivalry very passionately, and I know myself was one, Michael Roth was one, and a bunch of other guys that didn't just take the Clemson game as, and here's why I'll go back to that. Some guys that are from out of state, I think Coach Tanner was pretty good at this, that some guys from out of state, not that they don't mean to, but they just don't understand that rivalry, what that means and how much that means. And for me, I understood it. I was a Clemson fan growing up, and I kind of understood, and I took that as like another game. I know they say, you don't look at it as another game, a big game. No, there is other games, and that was definitely another game. So we just had some guys on that team that wanted to really beat those guys, and obviously they did too. But Michael Roth was the first. He pitched that first game, and I know he was a Clemson fan growing up, so he may have had a little extra something, to that game as well, just like a couple other of us. But you still had to go play the game, and we just obviously played a heck of a 2 games there, and got to see Garrett Cole first game of the championship.
Absolutely. So yeah, moving into that championship series, you guys take on UCLA, who you mentioned had arms like Garrett Cole, Trevor Bauer. I mean, these are guys that are still pitching right now in the big leagues. Obviously, big time, big money arms. We see what Garrett Cole, both those guys are doing. I mean, they're just extremely, extremely talented and very, very good pitchers. You guys' mindset going into that championship series, I mean, I'd imagine you guys, it seemed like you had a pretty loose group. Just talk about the mindset going in that series and knowing you were going up against a team like a UCLA with the type of power arms that they had.
Yeah, we had just beat Clemson twice, so momentum-wise, I don't know if you could ever get a better momentum than what we had. We just had to beat Clemson twice. I mean, we're feeling unbelievable, kind of just, I felt like if we won that first game, I mean, it was going to be tough to beat us. And Garrett Cole was on the mound. I'll never forget. I don't know if it was Bobby or Brady Thomas. I mean, we hit him hard. I remember hitting a little liner down left field. Left fielder dove for it, and got a triple. But there's a couple we had some dinkers, and they had a huge error at second base. I don't know if you remember that.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
I just let it right under the old chute. Yeah. Yeah, I know that feeling though. I'm not laughing at him because I've had that before. That's a terrible feeling. But that was a big play for us, and we got up. We beat them pretty good that game.
7-1 the first game. You actually had a triple in that one. So
7-1, yeah. So that was huge for us.
Absolutely. So we go into the second game. You guys get to the bottom of the 9th inning. It's a tie ball game, 1-1. You're leading off the inning, Bobby, and you're leading off the inning. I remember, I'll never forget, the count gets to 3-2. We find out later Ray Tanner gives you the bunt sign to push bunt down the third base line. He said the third baseman was playing back. When you look back on that, Scott, I mean, when you got that signal, what was going through your mind? And then obviously, like we talked about earlier, you really showed your discipline at the plate and were able to take that pitch. Just kind of walk me through that at bat and how you're able to stay so disciplined and not do too much there. I was laughing as you were talking about Coach Tanner, saying the third baseman's back. When he gave me that bunt sign, I don't think the camera stayed on me very long, but I looked at him and shook my head like, "What are you doing? What are you doing?" Because in my mind, I thought I might hit a walk-off homer. Something, I couldn't hit very well, but I believed, I was a pretty good believer, but so I looked at him like he was crazy, and he gave it to me again with like a look on his face like, "But like, don't you take this off and swing." So I was just like, "Well, shoot, all right, here we go." And I remember, I think the guy threw me a changeup, and I saw it out of his hand really well, and was able to tell it was a ball down, and just took it. Flipped my bat and just started flying over there to first base. But, Coach Tanner always says the third baseman was back. But, Coach, he wasn't back that far. I like to think that Coach probably more, was probably more on the side of thinking I could get on base bunting the ball rather than swinging. He says the third baseman's back, but I remember looking at third baseman. He wasn't too far by the bag. So, but hey, that was an unbelievable call by Coach. Yeah, I was going to say, I'm not sure where I heard the quote. Maybe it was Michael Roth. We had him on. I think what he said about that at bat for you is he said that Coach Tanner knew that, he knew that Scott would swing at a strike, but he knew he wouldn't bunt at one. And that's why he gave him the bunt sign. So
yeah. That's hilarious. He knew he'd swing at a strike, but he wouldn't bunt at one.
Or swing at a ball. I mean, yeah, that he knew he'd swing at a ball out of the zone, but he wouldn't bunt at the ball out of the zone. So put the bunt on and make his eye even better. Draw the walk.
Oh, so true. That too. Yeah. I mean, coach is smart, man. He he knew the game. One thing about coach and I, like we'd always, butt heads a little bit, but we both wanted to win. We had that. He never kind of, he'd always question some things I did rightfully, but he always knew that, I wanted to win. And, that's one thing about coaching. I feel like we're pretty good at.
Absolutely. So we all know how that game ends. You're on third base, though, Scott. I mean, you've got one of the best views in the house, obviously. Whit Merrifield with the walk-off single. Just talk me through. You cross home plate. You obviously get mobbed after you cross home plate. Then you go mob Whit Merrifield. Just in that moment, describe that feeling, because that's not a feeling that many people get. Granted, you had it twice, but not a lot of people get to score the game-winning run and just win a national championship, especially bring the first national championship to a school. Just talk about what that feeling was like.
Yeah, I just remember being on third base, and Holbrook was just telling me, hey, back on the line, don't get too far off the bag. And obviously those are things that, a third base coach needs to do. But I was just on third base looking up near my family, realizing we had Whit Merrifield up. I believe Jackie Bradley or Christian Walker on deck. So, I was thinking, man, we might just go ahead and do this right here. And, I know it's a 2-0 count. And people always have questioned, why didn't they walk Whit? But if you walk Whit, then you've got Jackie and Walker, or then if you walk Jackie, I mean, you're just a recipe for failure right there. But man, the guy made a heck of a pitch to Whit. And, Whit had more hits in the big leagues than anybody all year last year. So the guys we had on that team, I mean, Whit's probably one of the best hitters you'll see, and he just drove that ball, stayed with it, 2-0 pitch. It's, a lot of guys try to get a little big there, but Whit, man, Whit being the baseball player he is, just stayed on that ball, and just probably one of the coolest surreal moments I've ever had playing baseball, running down that third baseline. And I always tell this story. It got louder as I was running from third to home. Like coming from left field, it sounded like a jet coming at me, and it just got louder and louder and louder. And by the time it got loud enough, Pat Sullivan and Jackie were trying to tackle me at home plate. But man, that moment was probably one of the best best baseball moments I've had, because just the first time us ever doing that as a program and as a university, it was unbelievable. Can't even describe it. And shoot, man, it's pretty cool to even think about.
Absolutely. So, like I said, you guys bring the trophy home to Columbia, South Carolina. I'm sure quickly, though, you hit the reset button, because in 2011, you guys go back and do it all over again. Let's talk about your season, Scott, specifically, because your senior year is really, I would say, when you really put it all together. Like I said before, you were always an exceptional fielder, and that did not change your senior year. I actually want to mention your junior season. You were named to the SEC All-Defensive Team. I mean, obviously, you were very, very good in 2010 as well. But 2011, Scott, walk me kind of through, because, I mean, I want to read off your numbers here. You hit 338 when before you'd hit – the highest you would hit was 247. Numbers stayed pretty consistent with homers and RBIs, 4 home runs, 31 ribbies. But, I mean, that jump in average over, almost 100 points total. Just talk about what changed for you at the plate as you went into that senior year.
Yeah, I after we won the championship, it was awesome. From a baseball standpoint, I thought, in a team standpoint, man, we just did the coolest thing you'll ever do as a college baseball player. But for me, I was still hungry, because I had obviously I had the game-winning run in the College World Series, but I had a pretty bad World Series. I was, I don't think I had 2 or 3 hits. I may have 3 hits. I don't know. But I was still pretty hungry. And I had a really good first half of my junior season. but I realized my legs kind of gave out on me halfway through the year. So when I got back, I just made sure, and I told myself that if anything was going to happen next year, which Coach Tanner kind of let me know I was the guy at second base, which kind of was good, was awesome that he did that. But with Coach Tanner, if you don't play good, I mean,
right,
he'll take you out in a second. But I just made sure I kept my legs conditioned. I ran every day. I lifted. I probably lost a little muscle because I ran so much because I wanted to make sure my legs were under me. And I didn't lose those like I did halfway through the year, and just stayed positive. And tried to stay my approach up the middle. It kind of everything clicked, man. I was pretty good. I laid a few, some huge bunts down, had a couple big, like, game-winning hits that gave me some confidence that year. I know I had a walk-off against Georgia, hit a little dinker, pitiful little ground ball to the 4-hole. First baseman dove for it. I beat it out. And, the confidence kept growing that year. And I just turned into a pretty confident and developed hitter, and it was an awesome year.
Absolutely. So one thing I forgot to mention, 2010, you guys closed out Rosenblatt, winning the College World Series. 2011, obviously the first season of TD Ameritrade. Did that bring any extra motivation to you guys to come back and open the new stadium with a national championship?
Yeah, I think so. I think we went into that year literally just like exactly what you just said, believing that we would go do it again. Because we didn't lose much. We lost Witt. We lost Dyson.
Blake Cooper, I think, was off that one as well.
And Cooper, yeah. So, but we didn't lose a lot. Had a lot of our core group back. Witt was a huge piece, man. Witt was basically our leadoff guy, our 2-hole, and just was unbelievable his entire career at South Carolina. But we had a core group back. Well, huge for us was Forrest Kumis coming in that freshman year, dealing, couple guys. I know Colby Holmes had a heck of a game against, was it Virginia that year in the World Series?
Yeah.
But yeah, man, we had some guys that really stepped up. Peter Mooney came in behind Bobby. So we had guys that filled some roles and filled some holes, and they were really good. Peter Mooney came in and he made probably 6-7 errors the first couple weeks of the season. And man, he just really was steady from then on out. He kind of, got rid of the butterflies and stuff like that and realized he was, he was a heck of a player. And he's still playing right now. But, yeah, man, we definitely believed that we could do it again going into that season.
Yeah, so we'll just jump straight to Omaha. That was such an interesting that was just very interesting. That was an interesting year for you guys. Did it ever click for you that it's like, you know what, maybe we're meant to do this again. Maybe we're just the team of destiny? Because obviously, I say this a lot, to win a championship, you have to have the ball bounce your way every now and then. There's not really – I can't think of anyone who's ever won a championship that didn't get at least one or two good bounces in a season or in a postseason. But it seemed like with you guys, there were a lot of things. You think of the first game, you had the walk-off home run against Texas A&M, but you think of like the Virginia game where the ball is thrown all over the yard, you guys score the winning run. Did it ever like click to you that it's like, you know what, we just may be destined to do this thing and win this thing all over again?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say more along the lines of the type of guys, the character we had on the team. And I know that can be thrown around a lot and just, kind of rambled, but I really mean that. I'm trying to think of, a bunch of the guys. Jay Brown, for example, he was one of our team captains. He did things the right way. You have guys that, if you do things the right way and you're competitive, you don't get those kind of guys. You can ask any coach in the country. You don't get those kind of guys on a team every 3, 4, 5 years. It just doesn't come around. A lot of times coaches worry about the locker room, the captains. If really you're as good as your seniors or your your captains. And we had a bunch of guys in that locker room that, one, worked their tail off, and two, were just grinders and good people. I know we like to have fun. We cut up a little bit, but we kind of knew, how to do things the right way. And, really it showed. We would never quit. We were tough. We had different kinds of guys on that team. Adrian Morales was the guy who was, he'd want to fight you any second, tough as nails. We'd have Ross. He'd fight you too, but he'd cut up the other 90% of the time, So we had so many groups of guys and the different kind of people on that team, and it meshed perfectly, And I think that kind of is a testament too of Coach Tanner and him making sure that those captains, he didn't have to say much those 2 years. Coach Tanner didn't have to get on us very much. We'd cut up and stuff, but the captains they controlled that team and made sure everything was in house and done the right way.
Absolutely. So that 2011 National Championship Series, it's crazy. You guys are taking on another rival, but this time from your own division in the SEC East, the Florida Gators, who Florida seemed year in and year out to have a ton of talent. It's crazy to me it took them as long as it did for them to win a national title under Kevin O'Sullivan with just some of the talent they had. And some people will like to argue that you guys maybe weren't the better team on paper or didn't have more talent on paper, but overall you turned out to be the better team. What do you say to that? Do you think there's any truth to that? Because I don't think that's giving you guys quite enough credit for what you did.
I don't think that's true. If you look at the roster, they definitely had some guys that were really talented. But we had Jackie Bradley Jr., Christian Walker, Michael Ross. I mean, it's tough to kind of argue that, or on the other side. But they definitely were talented. If you look going back, we were kind of the scrappy group, but we were definitely talented. I mean, it's kind of that's tough to really answer, but they were really talented. I mean, they had guys, Zanino he's a Golden Spikes winner, something like that. And they had Paco Rodriguez, Hudson Randall. I mean, they had arms for days, but we were, I mean, team wise, you weren't going to find a better team. I mean, you just can't find a better team than I feel like we were. But they definitely had talent. They definitely had talent for sure.
Absolutely. So I want to jump to game one of that national championship series against Florida. Bottom of the ninth, Florida has the bases loaded. There's one out in the inning, I believe. Yeah, one out in the inning, bases loaded. John Taylor is on the mound. You make a play. I'm not going to lie, Scott, I still don't know how you made the play. You make a play, a diving play up the middle, throw, and I think people sometimes forget this, but Robert Berry at catcher makes a fantastic pick at home plate. And you guys, you talked about it a little bit earlier, but you guys really showed kind of that clutch gene as a team. You guys never let the moment get too big. There were never any nerves in that moment, at least from watching on TV. You're like, this team still believes 100%. They're going to win. It does not matter the situation. But just talk about being in that situation. What's going through your mind when you're laying out, diving up the middle, and, seeing Robert Berry make this incredible pick. And then you go back, I'm sure you've seen the replay. That ball is literally like couple inches from hitting Robert Berry's mask, and the game is over and it's a completely different story. But just talk about kind of that play, and you can kind of expand on that game if you want as well, because that was one of the crazier college baseball games I think any of us have ever seen.
Oh yeah, man. I mean, that was unbelievable. I mean, I'll never forget when they got bases loaded, I just went up to John Taylor and we just said a couple things. I think we didn't even talk about, hey, come on, John, you got this. It was more like, hey, man, here you go, double down right here. Just make a pitch. Let's get out of this. Something, just nothing too serious. But I remember the pitch before when the ball came to me, obviously as an infielder, you're thinking the ball's coming to you, and I always kind of, that's how I practiced and that's how I played. But I want to say it was 0-2 count. I could be wrong. I don't know what the count was to the guy, but I remember shifting a little bit over to the middle, up the middle just a little bit, because I was looking at Walker, and he was a little bit shaded over a little bit to second base, a little more than usual, I feel like. So I took about a step, maybe step and a half up the middle. And when he hit the ball, I'll never forget the spin I saw on the ball. It was more of a top spin ground ball. It wasn't a normal, staying on the ground, normal ground ball. So right before I dove, I could tell that this ball was top spinned, and that I needed to kind of, when I dove, not just dive straight out, arm straight out, and just, going for the ball. I had to kind of arch my glove a little bit and give with it as I was diving, because I knew, as I dive, I'm not just going to be diving and balls going in. I've got to, actually when I dive, I've got to kind of give with it. So, luckily it went my glove. That was the first part. Second part, I get up, and right when I get up, my peripheral vision, I see a guy at least halfway down the line. And there's no time to be sitting there, thinking how good of a play you just made. So I had to get rid of it. And, right when I get rid of it, I'll never forget, if you had a microphone on me, you would hear the words shit right when I throw it, because I let it go and I said shit. And right when I let it go, man, I was just like, Barry, pick me up one time. And, man, he made one of the best picks you'll ever see from a catcher. And man, the fortunate enough part didn't hit his mask. And a pretty funny story, I was Barry's official visit host. So I think that's pretty cool that, when Barry was deciding where to go, that, I was the one walking him around. So I like to think that, man, that's pretty cool that, I was his host and he picked me up, and I guess, I picked him up.
Absolutely. So it's actually funny. So the bases are still loaded in that scenario, one out. John Taylor gets another little grounder, double play gets another ground ball, double play for you guys. You get out of it. I have to imagine at that point, I mean, adrenaline's rushing. You guys are going crazy. I mean, it's like there's no way we lose this game now. Fast forward to the bottom of the 10th inning, and I definitely want to get your take on this because you mentioned Forrest Kumis earlier. He's actually a good buddy of mine, and he started that game against Florida, but he always tells me the story. He said he'd never forget that, the bottom of the 10th, 2 outs, Florida's got guys on first and second, and I forget who was at the plate, but they hit a line drive over to left field, and Jake Williams is in the left field. And he always told me, he was like, when that ball was hit, I'll be honest, I put my head in my hands because he was like, I'll be honest, Jake Williams, and he'll tell you, didn't have the greatest arm in the world. And he said that throw that he made was one of the most unbelievable plays he's ever seen on a baseball field. Just talk about that whole situation unraveling when that ball was hit. I mean, did you think the game was over? And then that throw from Jake Williams, I mean, what do you remember about that?
Yeah, I mean, I remember, obviously everybody knew Jake's arm wasn't that great. But, I played with Jake growing up in travel ball and, our Upstate Mavericks team. But, I mean, Jake was a stud. I mean, Jake went to Wofford out of high school and, played there and hit like, I want to say like 400 something. But, so no, Jake was a stud, but his arm just wasn't that great. But, so Jake was an athlete. Jake was a gamer, So, obviously you can't think he's going to throw that guy out. But when he hit the ball, you're just like, well, here we go. This is it. Jake, it's either you or nothing, buddy. And, man, he made an unbelievable throw. And Barry put an awesome tag on him and just stuck his nose in there and tagged him. And after that, you're like, okay, we're winning this game. There's no way we're losing this game. And I remember Steven Garcia, he was out there, and I think we saw him when we got back to the hotel, and he was like, man, I just saw those guys, or I think he was at his hotel, or I can't remember, but he saw the whole team walking to the hotel or something, and he was like, dude, they're done. Like, you can just tell all their heads are down. They're done. Y'all got them tomorrow. And I was like, yes, sir, we're going to. But, I mean, it was awesome, man. It was awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. So I was going to say in that game, obviously we know how it played out. Christian Walker gets on. It's crazy. You guys call the hit and run. Ball gets thrown away. He goes a second, goes a third. Ball gets thrown in the stands. He scores. Matt Price comes in and shuts the door. Obviously, game 2 wasn't quite as dramatic. You guys were able to pull away in that one. But I'm just because it's on my mind, Matt Price, he was such a key part of 2010 and 2011. When he came in, I mean, you knew it was game over. Were you ever able to face him in any type of inter squad or anything like that? And just talk about, I mean, just how tough he was to hit. Because, again, I mean, I could argue in those 2 seasons he was probably the best closer in college baseball.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, you didn't want to – I mean, Matt Price, I know I faced him a few times in inter squad, but he the dude was he knew he was the best, I mean, he came out on the mound. I mean, his walkout song, like, it was just Matt Price on the mound, ball game's over. I mean, you got on base, leadoff hitter got on. Well, now it's time to go to work. He didn't miss a spot. I mean, he threw with such conviction. I mean, he was that presence on the mound is unbelievable. And to have that kind of guy and that kind of player in the bullpen and to close it out for you, I mean, he was unbelievable. And he was unbelievable coming in. Like, he is a freshman. I want to say, was it his freshman year or sophomore year? He got hurt at the Citadel, and broke a bone in his.
I think it was freshman year. I think it was freshman year.
Yeah, what do you do? I think it was.
I don't remember 100%, but I definitely remember because I remember we North Augusta, we played up at Sumter in the playoffs where he obviously went. I remember seeing him in a cast, but I don't know what he did. But yeah, I remember that specifically. I remember seeing him in the dugout with the cast on.
Well, yeah. I mean, that was while he was playing at South Carolina. I think he got sidelined for.
Yeah, he was back, he was just back visiting, but yeah, he had did it his freshman year, I believe.
Yeah, so that sidelined him for a little bit, but man, Price coming in, he was you knew he was the man, and he this just awesome. He was a great guy too. I mean, Price, that's the kind of the guys we had, man. South Carolina, a lot of them were South Carolina boys. Did it the right way and would fight you. And Matt's a freaking stud, But yeah, that was awesome.
Absolutely. So just want to, because I actually said game 2 wasn't that dramatic. I mean, the final score 5-2, but definitely want to give you your due. Bottom of the 8th inning, you guys had a runner on third base, infield in. You came up with the RBI single, so definitely want to give you the props there on that. But just talk about, obviously, you guys win a second straight national championship. Again, you did exactly what you wanted to do. You close out Rosenblatt, you open up TD Ameritrade and get, you guys are back-to-back national champions. Did it feel any different, I don't want to say any less exciting because I feel like that's a dumb question, but how did it feel different than the 2010 national championship, if at all?
It felt there was a different feel because what we did in 2010 was kind of our first thing we've ever done. So there's definitely excitement on both sides, and it wasn't far off, But for me, it was more, I was kind of, a little emotions hit me because I just realized that it was over. Shoot, to go out on top is the best way to go. But still, I never forget sitting on the standing on the field interviewing and just having an interview, just going over and thinking about my freshman year, my sophomore year, and just the struggles I had, on the field, and to where I was at, and at that moment, man, I it was tough for me to not hold back some tears because it was just unbelievable to go back and think, from how far we've all come and how far I came. It was it definitely was a way more emotional moment, I feel like, for me the second year.
Absolutely. And like you said, you closed it out the best way you can. You went out on top. I think it's fair to say you had your best year as a Gamecock, your final season. When you look back now that you have time to reflect, because I feel like it's different when you're in the moment, especially when you're in a high intensity stage like that, winning the national championship. When you look back and you reflect on your career at South Carolina, what do you remember most, would you say?
I'd say, time with the guys is one. Just the camaraderie we had, bus trips. That was big. Probably work in the cage, knowing all those hours I just tried to grind in the cage. That was one. Being with the guys for sure. building those relationships. We still talk to a lot of them today. That probably is number one because, like I said, I still to this day it's going to be hard for you to find a group of guys that did it the right way, like we did. Had guys that cut up, guys that it was just perfect group of dudes, man, and that would fight you. So I'll definitely say being with the guys. Obviously the big games, never forget those. Probably being with, my freshman year, never forget that. The excitement I had, starting as a freshman. Feeling like, man, I'll never forget being in that infield with Smoke and Havens and Darnell. Shoot, how many first rounders? 2 first rounders and a second rounder. And there I am, 55 pounds. Scott Wingo from Baldwin, South Carolina, playing second base in front of 5,000 people, man. I was fired up. I had my whole family there, man. That definitely still is, moments that I'll never forget. But yeah, definitely, man. All that is probably what I think about the most.
Absolutely. And just really quick, wrapping up that 2011 season, you were named first team All SEC at second base, All SEC All Defensive Team, College World Series All Tournament Team, Most Outstanding Player for that 2011 National Championship Series. So I'm sure, like you're talking about, all that hard work really paid off. And again, it paid off in the most important moments, which was the national championship. Like I mentioned at the beginning of the show, you were 11th round draft pick by the Los Angeles Dodgers in the 2011 MLB draft. Obviously anybody who plays the game of baseball, that's your dream when you're little, right? It's playing in the big leagues, getting drafted, all that good stuff. What was that day like for you when you were drafted and, eventually started your pro career?
That was really, really awesome. I mean, it was surreal a little bit. Hearing my name because, you had a little draft tracker, had a little laptop sitting up and I hadn't got a call. I got a call actually after I heard my name on the draft tracker. The scout who drafted me called me probably a minute after, but, you hear the Los Angeles Dodgers in 11th round, select David Wingo out of South Carolina, shortstop. And I was just like, I had to double look at it. And I was like, wait a second, I'm a second baseman, but that's my name. You know what I mean? So it was surreal. It was awesome. It was a special moment. I'll never forget the first text I got. I don't even think I've told him this. May have. Ethan Carter texted me right when I got drafted. He was the first text I got. And then obviously the scout called me, but he was just fired up and sent me, obviously the text. But that was a surreal moment. I was almost late I think we had a practice or something that day. I was about late to practice just listening to the draft. But but everybody was fired up when I walked in, and Billy Anderson was like, oh, giving me trash. Like, oh, yeah, you heard your name. All right, hurry up. Let's lift, But yeah, man, looking back, that moment was awesome. But just those guys, like Billy Anderson, all the coaches, man, it was just those years, you just couldn't beat it.
Absolutely. Just really quickly, because I want to wrap up with you. I know I've kept you too long, Scott, but when you look back at your pro career, what do you take away from it? Because obviously I know you weren't ever able to get to, the MLB level or have the success at the MLB level like a Jackie Bradley or a Whit Merrifield is having, which, let's face it, not a lot of people do. But when you look back at your pro career with the Dodgers and overall, what do you take away from it?
Yeah, I mean, I love looking back at those days because, I obviously didn't make the big leagues, but I gave it obviously all I had at it. I mean, defensively, there's no question that I was good enough to play in the big leagues, but offensively, I just wasn't good enough. In college, I developed. I worked my tail off to get better, but playing 140 games a year, it was tough on me. It was a grind, and I kind of physically was pretty tough. I tried to really, in the off season, make sure I would gain some weight going really strong, but that wear and tear during the season was really tough on me personally. And I think that was, I hit probably 249 as a career minor leaguer. 249 is not,
Not
not
bad.
good enough.
But not
But
yet.
yeah,
Right.
it's not bad, but it ain't good enough. So I
Right.
understood it. You know, I had a piece about it, and obviously was just glad to get that opportunity. I played with a bunch of awesome dudes, and still talk to a bunch of them today. But yeah, what I take out of it was, man, like going in my junior year, you know, shoot, I might not have had a job. You know, Coach Tanner might not even played baseball, and to go from that to 11th rounder, that's pretty special, you know. And I kind of look at it as, hey, man, you fought, you clawed for a long time, and it ended, but it ended, you know, with a piece about it, that knowing that, man, I fought every day, you know.
Absolutely, and I definitely think Gamecock fans saw that when you were wearing garnet and black as well. Before I let you go, Scott, I want to let you expand on what life has been after baseball for you. Let the Gamecock fans know just what you've been up to since not only your playing days at South Carolina, obviously, but your pro career since that ended. What has Scott Wingo been up to?
Yeah, 2015, I came back, finished my degree at South Carolina, and was a student assistant. Then 2016 and 17, went to North Greenville University, got my master's degree there, and actually coached on the North Greenville baseball team. And then 2018, went to Jacksonville University, was a volunteer assistant coach for the Dolphins. We actually had a really good year. Played in the Florida Regional. Had Florida on the, I won't say on the ropes, but man, we played them a really good game. I think they beat us 4-3. And then we didn't make it out of that regional, but that was the first time, Jacksonville has made a regional, and I want to say close to, 11 years or something like that. But had a really awesome time in Jacksonville. Really learned a lot. I loved it down there. But, I kind of, for my coaching career, I kind of, thought maybe for me, personally, that it was time to go, get away from the game for a little bit. And, I decided to move back to Columbia. I'm actually just started a job at Recruiting Solutions here in Columbia, and also doing real estate at CMM Realty for great friend of mine, Mike Munson. Actually Logan played with me at South Carolina.
Yep.
But yeah, so that's what I'm doing now, and I'm actually really happy to be back in Columbia. Yeah, that's what I'm doing now.
Absolutely. So yeah, any of our listeners that need a house in the Columbia area, be sure to hit up Scott Wingo.
You better believe it. Yes, sir.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So, well, Scott, like I said, I know I've kept you a while. We could talk about this stuff all day, but I just want to say I feel like I speak for all the South Carolina Gamecock fans when I say we really do appreciate you laying it out on the line for South Carolina over your years, especially those 2010 and those 2011 seasons. And you obviously gave South Carolina fans and that team as well, gave Gamecock some of their best memories of South Carolina baseball. So we really do appreciate it. And again, I really appreciate you taking the time to come on our show and just kind of expand on your career a little bit.
Man, no problem at all. And again, I enjoy watching the Spurs Up show, and always follow you guys on Twitter. And thanks again for having me on, man.
Absolutely. Hey, one last question before I let you go. Your opinion on Gamecock baseball currently. I know Mark Kingston currently at the helm, and you were just at Jacksonville. He was at South Florida a couple years ago. Any interaction you've ever had with Mark Kingston, and kind of your opinions on the South Carolina baseball program currently?
No, you know what? I haven't got a chance to meet Coach Kingston yet. I went over there a few months ago, and I still want to go say hello to him, and hopefully meet all their coaches. But I tell you what, it's tough to come into a program and bring them to a super regional your first year. And I know I've got a lot. I've always had some questions. Oh, do you know Kingston? But seems like a great guy. Hear nothing but good things from him, and to bring that group to a super regional after the way they started, you've got to have some savvy. You got to have some toughness about you, and just to see him on interviews, see him on how he carries himself, I think he's going to be really, really good for this. Obviously, for this university, I think he did a heck of a job last year. I mean, shoot, if you saw what he did, they were a game away from Omaha, and I can't wait to see what they produce this year. I know Noah Campbell. I know his dad pretty well. Met Noah when he was going to camps here at South Carolina. I think he's going to have a heck of a year. He had an awesome season in Cape Cod, I saw. So they got some talent. Graham, my boy Graham Lawson, coached him in Wilmington. He's a donkey, man. He was 94, 96 in Wilmington. Lights out, shut it down for a little bit during the season, but I expect to see him have a big year. And I wouldn't be surprised if they got right back, you know?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I know that's obviously the goal. You know, you guys definitely set the standard, I would say, a pretty high standard at that, winning 2 straight and going to 3 straight. But, no, I definitely think Coach Kingston's the right guy for the job, and I fully expect South Carolina, again, to have a big year this year and be back in Omaha sooner rather than later. But, again, Scott, I really do appreciate the time, and let's do it again sometime soon for sure.
Sounds good. You just let me know, man. I'll be on anytime.